Welcome, everyone. Today is Tuesday, July the 6th, 2021. This is a work session of the Board of County Commissioners. My name is Patty Clapper, and I'm filling in for Chairman Kelly McNicholas Curry. So I will be hosting this meeting. And with me, I have on the Zoom from his home in Brush Creek, I have Greg Postman. And from Alaska, we have Steve Child, who is sitting at the end of a runway sort of experience, zooming into our meeting, for which I greatly thank him for making the effort, because we would not have had a quorum. Our other commissioner, Francie Jacober, is down in Denver and is not able to call in. So are you getting mosquitoes there, Steve? So we're going to begin our meeting with a presentation and update on the DOLA Planning Grant, 3-county solar and storage study, action plan overview. So Cindy, take it away. And we have Mona Newton here from CORE, and we have Zach here, who is our climate action long-term planner, Zach Hendricks. He is a man of multi-titles.
All right. Well, thank you very much. I'm Cindy Hoogley. I'm the Community Development Director. And with us today, we have Mona Newton, Erica Spark, I see Catherine Rushton, and I'm not sure if Alice is going to be on as later. No, I guess not. With us. This was a grant that the Board of County Commissioners provided $25,000 to help with. It's a multi-jurisdictional 3-county grant with Garfield County, Eagle County, and Pitkin County to look at the potential for solar in our area. And so with that, Mona has the presentation, and I'm going to turn it over to Mona.
Great. Welcome, Mona.
Thank you very much. Let's see. I'm going to try to share my screen. Michaela, I think it was Charlotte suggested that you would allow me to do that. So I'm trying to make sure I can make that happen.
There you go.
Oh, can you all see my screen?
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Let's see if I can put this right over here. All right. So thank you, Cindy, so much for getting us on the agenda and teeing this up for us. So yeah, we have been working on this project, calling it the 3-county solar plus storage plan. And it was primarily funded through Department of Local Affairs, and then we got partnership funding from Eagle, Pitkin, and Garfield County. And then Garfield Clean Energy contributed in some funding to support the acceleration of not the acceleration, but the management and the overview of the project. So here's just an overview of what we're going to talk about today. We're going to give you an idea of who participated in the project, a little background about it and its purpose. And then the most interesting thing, I think, is the key findings, and then our action categories that we've developed. And then we have some next steps in implementation. And part of what we wanted to do today was to really be able to get your feedback. And with the 3 of you at the end, and then hopefully the other 2 county commissioners and staff input as well. So I'll share that with you today. So as I mentioned, we've got the counties, the state, and then the 3 nonprofits working together, Walking Mountains, Clear, Clean Energy Economy for the region. I think you all know those folks. We've got Catherine and Erica with us today, and then CORE, Community Office of Resource Efficiency. And then we utilized a mapping firm and an economic consultant to really bolster our research and the study, actually. So just a little state context here. As you know, the Polis administration has really prioritized the greenhouse gas roadmap, and within that, he wants a just and equitable transition to renewable energy and pollution reduction. He wants to diversify and strengthen our economy and improve the health and well-being of our communities. And so this is really motivated by the transition to cleaner energy. So the DOLA grant, when we, and you all got a presentation, I think, well, I know you did, because you approved the funding, several months ago, or last year, I think it was, they approved a package of 5 different projects for the solar plus storage project. And one is the regional energy inventory to quantify energy use, cost, and emissions in the built environment. And we're using that as our baseline. And I want to just say that's different than the emissions inventory that we're also working on right now and expect to get back in early 2022. So this is just an energy inventory of the built environment, and it does not include transportation. Then the second piece is a study of the potential for further development of solar energy along with battery storage. And so wherever we looked at the potential for solar, we always wanted to include storage with it as well, because although we do have Xcel and Aspen Electric in this service area of the 3 counties, Holy Cross is by far the largest utility, and we know that they want to couple solar plus storage. And then the third item is an online toolbox of resources that can inform landowners and local governments about successful project development. And that is really, that's a really nice map and that we can use. And then we also have developed, the fourth component was a toolbox, as we call it, to streamlining the permitting processes for solar energy projects. And then the final piece is an economic transition assessment to look at what are the regional economic opportunities and also the challenges as the state works towards the 100% renewable energy targets and our role in providing some of that renewable energy. So the purpose of this solar plus storage plan is really to create a vision about how solar and storage can accelerate our progress to a clean energy future. We've all set goals. All 3 counties have varying goals of what a clean energy future can look like. We want to provide some really practical information so that we can empower communities and residents and organizations, and so that we can play an active role in helping Colorado reach the 100% renewable energy goal. We also know we need to identify barriers and action steps. And then we also we want to develop a replicable approach to help other regions tap solar plus storage. We've seen other communities from different states developing a similar plan. So to start with the draft key findings, I think you'll find this interesting. Energy use in the built environment in 2019, buildings and industry in Garfield, Eagle, and Pickens counties used 1.86 million megawatt hours of electricity and 119.5 million therms of natural gas. And then in 2019, lighting, powering, and heating buildings and industry cost us $186.5 million and $72 million for natural gas. So that's a total of $258 million for electricity and gas. So it's quite a bit. On the chart on the right, you can see the breakdown for the 3 county area, and still in the residential in Pickens County in particular, it's residential and commercial are a smaller portion of the pie, just based probably on our population than what the Garfield and Eagle County. And again, I want to emphasize this did not include transportation energy, just building energy. So what we find also is that the current grid, and this is again for 3 counties, is a total of 24 megawatts of net metered solar capacity, and then we have 8.5 megawatts of community solar, community scale. What we could have is 31.25 megawatts of capacity from proposed. This is the planned solar for future interconnection. And then local power, we expect that local power generation will increase to 63 megawatts over the next 3 to 5 years. But wait, what we can see is that as of 2019, our local solar production is really only 1% of our total regional electricity use. So we have a lot of room to grow. So one of the things that we looked at as part of this project is what our resource potential is. So that's all the potential solar that we could have. And then we looked at then we pulled that down to what's the technical potential. So based on grid constraints, land use constraints, topographic constraints, and then PV systems and efficiency. And then we whittled that down even further to look at what the market potential is for that would include the economic competition, what kinds of regulatory constraints we have, what kind of utility policies there are, and then based on current utility programs. So this is based on what's current. And then, and so you can see that with the technical potential, we could really do 487 megawatts. With the market potential, that whittles it down to about 232 megawatts, but still we could increase our local solar production to 26% from 1% to 26%. So there's and that's just on the community scale solar projects. We need to do some further analysis on the market potential for the net metered rooftop solar plus storage, and what that might look like, and especially as you know, things are changing. Zach mentioned net metering. That's probably going to change, although at the recent bill that went through the Colorado legislature, I believe you can net meter up to 200% of your power. That has to be allowed. That's, you know, applies to the large utilities. Fortunately, Holy Cross tends to go the way of larger utilities. So, some draft key findings for economic benefits. That means energy savings. We could save about $19 million per year from 2022 to 2040, and increasing jobs annually, 260 jobs. So that would, if we built the 232 megawatts of new solar and storage. Property tax revenues would increase by $26.5 million over 30 years. And then land lease revenue would increase over $31 million. So that's, you know, economic boost to our economy. What we do have, or what we looked at, are some other economic benefits, is the reduced demand costs for distribution utilities, and that's primarily for Holy Cross. If we have storage coupled with the solar, and they can access that storage during times of peak demand, that would drive down their peak demand and reduce their costs. And then there is locational value for solar and storage that could allow utilities to avoid some of their upgrades, their utility grid upgrades. And we have mapped some of that out as part of this project. So, and then the value of resilience. We know that community solar and storage can have a certain amount of energy resilience, especially during a time of natural disaster. I think, you know, after the Lake Christine fire, we really started talking about resiliency and what that might look like, and especially with transmission lines. I mean, there's still some opportunities that we can pursue, especially with solar. We could do something, for example, at Aspen High School and have a battery there, and that could become a community shelter that has electricity if needed, or there could be another location, something along those lines, just as an example. So, of course, we also found barriers to this idea that we want to promote, and there's some regional barriers there. There's the lack of joint transmission planning, and that, you know, joint transmission planning, if that was occurring between Excel and Holy Cross and other utilities, then you could build larger solar projects and you could just wheel that energy back and forth. And then and if we did that, though, we'd have to deal with the transmission charges and the wheeling fees that occur with that. Barriers, there's a lot of barriers to standalone storage. And so it does require, if you're going to try to take the investment tax credit, you have to co-locate that with solar in order to get credit for it. And then sometimes it's not always, standalone storage is not recognized as a qualifying facility under PURPA. That's a Public Utilities Regulatory Policy Act. So That's some challenges at the federal level, but there still can be overcome. So again, we've got to think about how we overcome some of these barriers, some of the grid constraints on the technical side, some of the land constraints. On the market side, we need to think about what are some of the utility policies, maybe the utility programs, and then we need to remove some of the market barriers and capture, so we can capture more of the potential technical capacity. So the other thing that we wanted to do is, as part of this, as I mentioned earlier, one of the 5 key things was develop a draft action plan. And this is where we really want some input from the key stakeholders like you all, the county commissioners. And that is, we set this up in terms of categories. And each category actually has a number of steps below them that go into more detail. And what we want is, for example, we'd like to see some commitments and policies to develop local solar plus storage. We see opportunities for more funding and low-cost financing resources. There's a lot of funding available, but it's not always low cost. We feel like there could be some more investment in regional expertise and capacity building to continue to accelerate the clean energy progress. As I mentioned earlier, we could have some utility, regulatory, and infrastructure improvements that could increase the amount of solar that we could build in our 3-county region. Best land use practices is another category for solar plus storage development. I know Pitkin County has been working on your land use regulations the last year and a half or so, and to make it easier for solar to build small solar projects next to sites, or a community solar project, or use the caucuses. We need, more of that kind of work done. We need some supportive tax policies and improved incentives at the federal level. For example, it'd be nice if when Pitkin County develops a project and puts it on the roof, or a large project around a facility, you could take the ITC, the investment tax credit, as a grant instead, or something along those lines that bring the cost down for you. Expanded economic development support to rural regions and all transition economies. That would be great to get some support from the state. And again, all of these are just major categories that we've come up with. And the last one is education and training, and we have a lot of detail below those. So we've identified some organizations and entities that can help play a role in that: local governments and regional collaboratives, utilities, state and federal agencies, educational institutions. We've talked about CMC becoming more workforce training. Economic development organizations can certainly play a role. Energy partnerships. The PUC, of course, has a role. The state legislator, investors, foundations, philanthropists, businesses, and of course, households and organizations can get involved in this. So we are going to be giving multiple presentations between now and the end of the month. We're going before, I think we have a presentation before the Garfield Clean Energy later this week, and then next week before Eagle County Commissioners, and then at some point Garfield County Commissioners. We'll also be presenting to Holy Cross and to other organizations, and then we'll be wrapping up this report and submitting it to DOLA for final project here. Then our next steps really are to start pursuing some implementation funding. As you know, there has been some renewable energy funding that was allocated to DOLA, Department of Local Affairs, and then we expect funding to come through the Department of Energy. And so I think implementation funding might be an opportunity. And so we'd like to continue to we'd like to take this information that we've been able to gather, and then continue with some regional collaboration, and then hopefully we'll be able to reach this goal of 232 megawatts in the not too distant future. So as I mentioned, or I did mention at the beginning, we would like to really get your input. And so we have an opportunity, we have created, I think Erica has created an online form that you all could fill out. We can email you the draft action plan and then a Google form so you could submit your feedback and your input, and we'd really appreciate that. And wondering if that's something that you would be able to do and work with. So.
Okay, Mona, are you wrapped up?
I am, and I want to thank you for your support and for your participation in the project. So.
Well, I'm going to look at Cindy and Zach to see if you have anything you need to or would like to add.
No, I don't think so. I think the conversation now would be good just to start where Mona left off and see how applicable the board thinks this master plan is and some of the action steps. Oops. And some of the action steps that should be taken. So I don't know if anybody heard that, but that we would like to just go ahead and get into conversation about the applicability of the plan and where to take it.
Okay. So, Zach, did you have anything?
Not at this time.
Okay. So, Greg, please.
Yeah, hi, thank you. This is great. Great to see everybody, and it's wonderful to have this presentation. So, and Catherine and Erica, thanks for being here. And Cindy and Zach, I see you there too as well. So thank you all for being there. And Mona and I have been speaking earlier today. I think this is good. There's a lot to digest, a lot to go through. I'm wondering just how comprehensive it is regarding, say, the individual homeowner is this solar and plus storage for me as a homeowner, or is this solar plus storage for something like our solar farm project or something larger and commercial? So maybe a little bit more information just on the difference between a community solar garden and rooftop solar. You know, how do we distinguish between a big commercial project and individual projects, and how will they fit into this so we can start rallying people to engage?
So first of all, the map that we've done identifies land parcels that will host 5 megawatts or larger. And we've identified those and we've layered them for public and private land, and how close they are to utilities, and we've used some other criteria. So that's the mapping piece of this, and that's pretty important. For the homeowner, as I mentioned, we haven't done as much of the rooftop analysis yet. So can the homeowner utilize that? To some degree. I mean, a homeowner can inquire about solar for their home by contacting a local contractor or that kind of thing. What we want to also be able to do, or what we have done, is look at public facilities like county buildings and larger buildings. But we haven't, you already have solar on your home, Greg, but for example, you would not necessarily plug into that. But we would certainly like homeowner support and homeowners to continue to add solar to their homes and their businesses.
Greg, is that all? Steve?
You know, I think the only thing I would add is that at times it's confusing to know who to turn to and where to go. So whether I go to Core or Clear or look for a contractor or contact Totally Cost directly, as you may have all seen on social media, we're being assailed, or at least I am, maybe because I talk about it a lot, assailed by all the ads from various dubious-looking contractors for free solar and stuff like that. If you see those ads that are coming in, they don't really cut to the chase about how you're actually going to put solar on your roof. But there's a lot of interesting bait and fishing going on out there. And I think the best thing might be just to contact the utility directly to find out. But I keep thinking, wow, I should really know how to go about doing this, and I'm not totally clear. And if I can't figure it out, I'm wondering how many other people can. So I guess my feeling would be, let's just make sure this is a really, we have a roadmap that anybody who's interested can follow and know how to get in and get engaged. And I know that's coming, but that's what I'm looking for now.
Yeah.
Good. Well, we definitely want to do more outreach and education. And you're right, it is important for people who to contact and how to get engaged in this. And of course, I would say if you're in Dixon County, call CORE, and I'm sure Claire would say if you're in Garfield County, please call us, and Rocky Mountain State, please call us, and Eagle County. So, yeah.
Okay, great. Steve, did you have something?
Yeah, a couple of things. I'm going through the process right now of trying to get a net metering project at our own house. And so it's very enlightening to me to see, sort of the impediments that I have bumped into. One of the impediments is that the Holy Cross line in Snowmass and Capitol Creek needs upgrading. And so anybody at this point doing a homeowner's solar project needs to put money in to help pay for those upgrades. And in my case, the woman at Holy Cross Energy calculated that we would have to pay about $2,000 upfront to just help pay for the upgrades. Some of that could get reimbursed as more people put rooftop solar on and also pay in to pay for the upgrades. But for a lot of people, that would be just an extra cost up front. It's an impediment to somebody even doing a project. They might be stretching it to even, pay for the solar panels and the getting connected. So that's something that potentially the county or CORE could help on helping fund the connectivity thing or the infrastructure upgrades that Holy Cross needs to do. Second impediment that I see is for reaching our full goal of, by 2050 having so much solar. I'm limited to, I think it's 120% of the previous year's electric usage in terms of what size of solar array that I could put on my house. Now I could make that higher if I bought an electric car right now, and that could be added on to the total amount of panels that I have. But if we're trying to maximize the amount of electricity we're producing from homeowners, they're limited. They're trying to keep it close to the amount of electricity they're actually using for their house and not generating extra electricity to put into the grid that Holy Cross might or might not need. But if we're going to reach the goals, they do need all the electricity that generates locally that they can get. So at some point, that 120% thing might need to be revisited. It's probably a PUC thing or something. It's probably out of Holy Cross's hands on that matter.
I probably wasn't as clear as I could have been because the legislature did pass a piece of legislation that will allow you to go up to 200% of your capacity in anticipation of electric cars and added electric devices like cold climate heat pumps and stoves and whatnot, that kind of thing. And I think what I've heard a rumor that Holy Cross is going to adopt that as well. The Holy Cross board will adopt that same piece of legislation as a policy that they'll honor.
I would
Okay,
also
well, that
like
would
to.
be good.
Well, let's,
Yeah.
Zach has
I'd like
something
to
to, wait,
build
Steve.
it as big as I could right away. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah,
Zach.
Zach.
Yeah, I'd also like to clarify that 120% currently is just for net metering. You are able to put on as much solar as you want. They just won't pay you back for it, and that's just a sheer economics fact. They can buy a kilowatt hour much cheaper from a utility scale distribution of renewables than they can from an individual household. And so that's merely an economics point on that. But you can put as much solar on your house as you want. You're just only going to be net metered up to the 120%.
Or to now the 200.
To not to the 200, yes, when that bill takes effect.
Okay, that's good to know. Then a couple other points. In my case, I'm thinking that a ground-mounted solar thing in a location outside of our currently approved building envelope would be the best place to put our solar array at my house. So in order to make it happen on that site, I need to go through a land use planning process to expand my building envelope. from what it is now. So I have to go through a county process. I could put rooftop solar on. It's really not what I think is the best system for my location right now. We have a good on-the-ground site that is close to the meter on the power pole, and I think would be really a good location. It hasn't been analyzed yet, but anyhow, that's just one more impediment, the land use process that I have to go through to get there.
Yep.
Then in terms of
Steve,
where does a homeowner start? Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I think there's a comment to that thing about land use.
You actually, all of you fixed that in 2019. So we do have a land use exemption for building envelopes, so long as you are not proposing this, the renewables in a constrained site. So a steep hill, wildlife, something like that. So we do actually have an exemption in our land use code to permit people to build outside of their current building envelope.
Okay.
Okay.
That's good. So yeah, there's lots of
Thank you,
people a homeowner has to talk to. I started out by calling Sunsense Solar, who I've known Scott Ely for years and years, and I want to do my project through them. I really like their company. So then they connected me to Holy Cross. So it's been a back and forth between Sunsense and Holy Cross Energy. And Core, I think, will be involved at some point, and maybe community development will be involved at some point. So that sort of process is confusing to a homeowner, where they don't know where to start, who to talk to first, all the hoops you have to jump through to get there. And the more we can expedite that for a homeowner, that would be good.
Great, thank you, Steve. We can work on that.
Like,
Sure.
maybe a simplified checklist, if you don't already have one, that you can hand out to people and they can just go down the list. But Steve, that's a great idea.
Yeah.
Steve, did you have anything else Greg?
Well, I was
Wait.
curious, the one more thing, Mona, you mentioned a questionnaire that you would like us to fill out. Do you want us to fill that out individually, or as individual people who happen to be BOCC members, or do you want us to have an official Pickens County BOCC questionnaire filled out, or both?
I think when you fill it out, we'd like it to be individual, and we'd like it to be as a Pickens County commissioner. What else would you like? And we have several questions that Erica has put together, and I can pull it up on the screen if you'd like to see it, or we'll plan to email that to you along with the action plan, the draft action plan. You can read that more in depth and then give us that feedback. We'd appreciate it as a Pickens County.
Yeah, I would suggest you send it to us directly if you want to make sure that we fill it out and send it back. That's probably the best way to get to us.
Great.
Now, Steve, are you done? Because I think Greg has more. Thank you, Steve.
Okay, great. Thanks. Thanks, Steve, for asking those questions. That's all really valuable. And Zach, for the surprising response. So, hey, we already did that, and I didn't remember that.
Yeah.
I was just thinking from a consumer of the technology that we're using with our solar panels. I put panels in a couple of years ago, and honestly, they're already outdated. Had I waited 6 months, my solar panels would probably produce 25% more energy than they do. And so I'm a little frustrated as a consumer because I just can't keep upgrading. And I follow the electric vehicle threads, and a lot of the time it's about this upgrade path, which is kind of like your phone or your computer now for cars and for the technology of solar or EVs. And so people are talking about leasing so they can continue on the upgrade path and keep getting the better stuff. And so I'm just wondering, have you been having those conversations? How can somebody stay abreast of what's happening? If I want the dual face solar panels that produce 400 watts instead of the ones I bought 2 years ago that produce 300 watts, can I do that? Is it worth it? Or am I stuck with the lower producing panels? Then in some cases, it really might make a difference to somebody who has a limited amount of space, like my roof space only has so much. So that was one of the questions: will there be interesting And can we work toward interesting ways of financing with lease programs or just ways to remove those barriers to entry for people who would do this if it was easy enough and they could afford it.
I think that's a great recommendation for you to add into this form we want to send you, because we're looking at how do you finance, how do you create better funding mechanisms, what are some new market opportunities for the solar companies, for example, because I think that's a great suggestion, Greg. It might be a little bit more difficult than it sounds, for somebody to come in and you sign a package. I know that recently we had received a notice from Enphase. Those are the inverters on the system I have. And they said, hey, you can upgrade all of your inverters, because the system's about 10 years. You can upgrade all the inverters for $650. And it's like, wow, what a great deal, because you're going to get the newest inverters, because that's what's likely to go out. Your panels, by just putting them on, they've got a 25-year, 30-year guarantee on them. They're going to continue to produce. So, you've got really, even though it sounds like you're not up to the latest technology, it's pretty good. So I think there's some opportunities, and we like that kind of input from you when we send this Google form out.
Well, I think I may have in phase also. I'll have to go back and look to see if I missed that email. But staying abreast of that's a little tough. But having a clearinghouse, having Clear and Core work together on this, super important to me. I think that really helps. And making it effortless for people to at least learn more is the first step. Because everyone I talk to would like to be participating on some level. So I'm looking forward to your questionnaire.
Thank you.
Okay, Steve, go ahead.
I have questions about electricity storage systems. I know Holy Cross has a program now that you could get the Tesla batteries, lithium-ion batteries, and have them in a climate-controlled part of your house or in a building where you could store electricity. But we're going to need, I think, a lot of electricity storage systems, whether they're industrial scale or homeowner scale. I could actually see a business opportunity for a business or a homeowner who wanted to invest in a bigger battery storage system, and they would be willing to sign a contract with Holy Cross or with Aspen Energy or with Xcel, where they would store electricity at when there's excess electricity in the line that's not being used. They could store electricity in their system in exchange for being able to then sell it, get paid a premium to deliver it during peak usage times. I would love to see that be looked into to see if that would be feasible. Maybe it wouldn't be feasible on a homeowner scale, but if there were a business who wanted to go into electricity storage as part of their business model, I think we should investigate that as a possibility.
So I can jump in there real quick. So the program is Power Plus, is the one you're referring to with Holy Cross. First off, the reason they require the Tesla Powerwall is that networks with their current grid management system, which gives them the capability to discharge as a whole. So instead of having to individually tap into each and every single battery, they can just press a button and discharge all of them at once. And so that's why they have that current restraint on that, that's what links into their grid at the best. The second part is that program, you're only limited if you're having them finance the batteries for you. They do have a bring your own device portion of that program where you can hook in more and sign up for their net metering component of that as well. And then the last part of that is they are looking to go towards the commercial and industrial side storage. However, there are a lot of additional ramifications that come from systems of that size. There's greater fire hazard. You have to make sure you have all the shutoffs. So they're kind of taking a careful approach to that to make sure that they can do that in a way where it has the best bang for the buck, and they're considering all the other safety repercussions that come with it.
Good point. Okay, I'm going to add just a few things real quick. I think presentations valley-wide, but are you going to tap into the municipalities? Because we need the partnerships, not just countywide. and energy company-wise, but by the municipalities too. Because I know the City of Aspen City Council would, and Snowmass would like to hear this, as would Basalt. So.
Yes,
that-
I completely agree with you. So,
Okay.
yes.
Okay, great,
we
thank
plan
you.
to do.
And you did mention expanded economic development support. You know, I do sit on the executive board for the Northwest Cog Economic Development District. So maybe at some point we can talk about doing a presentation at one of our EDD meetings. It would be,
Yeah.
you know, 15 would be, you know, have to be condensed, but I think that would be great to reach out to those members which are across the Rocky Mountain region. So I can touch
That'd be
base
great.
with Cindy and Zach on that, Mona. Okay,
That'd be great. Thank you, Patty. As we mentioned, we'd like to share this information with other entities because I think they'd find it pretty interesting.
yeah, and
Mr. Dola would-
the Economic Development District has different, a variety of different members, so it would be a great opportunity, and we can work on that. And then, since we do have Erica and Catherine here from CLEAR, would you ladies like to jump in and add some comments or points for the Board of Commissioners? So, Erica, go ahead.
Yeah, we don't have anything in particular to add. We were just here to help answer questions if anything came up in the particulars of the key findings. But we're really, I mean, all of your questions are really great. We are putting together landowner resources for landowners who want to pursue community scale on their land and kind of go through that checklist and steps. But yeah, there's also a need for just all the different options there are now for rooftop. Yeah, but no, it's great. It's great presenting to you guys and hearing all your questions. Really glad you're engaged.
Well, and I want to add something real quick, Steve, and then I'll get, for marketing for CLEAR's new rebate program for solar, residential solar. I know this family down in Glenwood Springs who just put solar on. They were the first ones to get a grant through CLEAR. I know they'd be more than happy to share their story. They have a great little family. They live on South Grand. It's Gordon and Tracy Turner, who just happened to be my daughter and son-in-law. And they would be a great example for you to share with the community on we can do it, you can do it. I'm going to volunteer them for your program. They don't know anything about my volunteering them, but I just did. So, yeah, let me know if you want to get in touch with them. All right, Steve, go ahead.
So if someone's doing a community scale solar or willing to do that on their own private property, the biggest constraint really is the capacity of the electric lines, whether they can take that much electricity or not, which Holy Cross has the information. Maybe Core and Clear have some of that information too, but a private landowner might have a great site, but they don't have the power line absolutely is inadequate to carry the amount of electricity they could produce. So to me, part of the solution would be, you know, maybe we need to be upgrading some of the electric lines to just add more capacity for carrying that solar. Then who's going to pay for that? Maybe the government could participate in helping upgrading some of the electric lines if it's really a good project. They just need another wire strung to the system or something to make it, put the capacity in there.
Yeah.
So one more thing to think about.
Well, unfortunately, we have been able to get, Holy Cross has been very generous with the information that they have about their transmission lines. So we do have that information. We do know where they do have capacity and where they have constraints. And yes, but we do need to think about how do we upgrade those transmission lines in order to add that capacity.
And maybe we can be creative with the new federal infrastructure dollars that are going to be coming out and put that into, I mean, it addresses two problems at the federal level, both the need for renewable energies and the need for infrastructure improvements. So let us know where we can be of help on that one. We write great letters to Congress.
Yes, thank you. Yes, you do.
Any other comments, questions, input? Seeing none, I want to thank everybody, and I think we're going to have Mona on for our next item. And thank you, Erica and Catherine, for joining us. And we're going to move on to our next agenda item. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. If you don't mind giving me just a couple of minutes to reorganize here.
Okay, then I will very slowly introduce the next item. Our next item is the Community Office for Resource Efficiency Overview of Accomplishments, Future Work, and the Renewable Energy Mitigation Program Funding Request. So, this has a lot of information in the packet material, which I truly appreciate, and I have a feeling this is gonna be shared with, our partner across the street.
The city already had a presentation
Okay,
earlier.
perfect.
So,
Perfect. Zach, thank you, as
Alrighty.
always.
Okay, let's see what I can do here to, got my slideshow up. I just need to figure out how to get back to you all. Oh dear. Oh, here we go.
And Steve, you're still coming through perfectly from Alaska. Perfect spot. So you're gonna be stuck there for the next couple of hours, if not the next couple of days.
Yeah, Steve, that's better than your house, actually. It's clearer and I can hear you better.
Yeah.
That's good. I'm a long ways away. This is the same location my daughter was teaching classes at the University of Alaska from on Zoom with the same backdrop. I'm sitting in her van here, but it is.
Uh-oh.
we said,
Uh-oh,
we jinxed it.
oh. The Kirsten. So, should I get started or?
Steve, did we lose you? I'm so sorry that we brought up how perfectly you were coming through.
Yeah. I think the van battery died. Or a bear got him. We'll find out.
Or one of those planes was landing.
Yeah. Should I get going or what do y'all?
I think we can move slowly forward, John, even though we don't, this has been a question about our quorum, but
So in a work session,
I
you're
know.
not making
this,
in a work session, you're not making a decision, and so a quorum isn't necessary, but it is desired given that a future decision is based on the work session.
Gets too
Maybe we
funny.
should give Steve 30 seconds or such, see if
Yeah.
he can log back on, and otherwise you can proceed. But you can't really give any direction or.
No, I think we can slowly have Mona introduce the presentation and we'll work on getting Steve back. So Mona, go ahead and slowly.
Alrighty then. All right, can you see my screen here?
Yes, we can. Beautiful picture of the Aspen Mountain in the background.
Great, thank you. So yeah, I'm here today to give you an
Can't believe
update and talk about some of our accomplishments and where we're going in the future and potential requests for ramp dollars in the coming months. So this is just as I've already done that, so it's going to be quick, but just a little background here. So the BOCC, you all approved $270,000 for the budget year 2021, and you may, and it was, we actually came to you with how the money was going to be spent, I think in May or June. So we've been before you quite a bit recently. And in 2022, we'd like to request $500,000 from REMP for our budget. And then we want to update you on some of our diversification strategies as well. Because we know that with REMP dollars declining and still so much work to do around climate action, we need more funding, or we need funding to continue the work that we've been able to do in the last 27 years. So CORE, as you know, was founded in 1994. Patty, you've been on the board a couple of
Yep.
times, and it was founded by 3 utilities, 8 communities, and then members of the community. And Bill Sterling is still on our board, and he's currently chair of the board. We're a 501c3, just to remind you. Sometimes people refer to us as a quasi-governmental organization, but we are a non-governmental 501c3, so we're able to connect with all the vulnerable communities and with everybody in the community. And our staff is really, we provide a lot of advising, and that's really how we catalyze some of the work that's been done. We currently have 12 directors on the board, and they're ready to support and influence climate action. So, as I mentioned, we want to request $500,000 in 2022 for the 2022, but we know we need to come before you in the fall. When we do use and spend REMP dollars, we always leverage that at least 3 times with the funding. And then in 2022, we're looking at what is our organizational and financial resiliency going forward. So we're developing fundraising efforts that we have had in the past since we began in 1994, because we have been able to, in the first few years, CORE really utilized foundation funding and utility funding and community funding. And then with the development of the REMP program, we've been able to access those funds and utilize them. And as I mentioned, get those or leverage those at least 3 times for carbon savings and also dollars. And this year, with the declining REMP dollars, we're going to be activating more of a fundraising effort than we have in the past with grants and individuals and corporations and whatnot. This is the slide before you is just an overview of how the funds were spent in 2021. We have a budget of $2.17 million, and 1.4 came from the city, and then the 270 came from the county. Other dollars come from other members. We have the town of Snowmass, town of Basalt, also in the city of Aspen are members, and Holy Cross. And then we also receive fundings from a few other sources as well. And in 2022, our draft budget right now is $1.9 million. And we have received, I think, some support from the city of Aspen for a budget, again, of $1.2 million. And then we'll ask for, if you support that, $500,000 from the town. So that's what that looks like. And our impact, as you know, we have really been focusing on beneficial electrification in the last year. And we're really trying to help exceed the carbon targets that you all have set, and we've encouraged you to set. We focus a lot on high visibility projects. I probably don't need to, restate Basalt Vista. That's been a very high visibility project. In fact, the governor was here a week or so ago to sign a bill at Basalt Vista. And that I think was great. I was not able to attend that, but I think Greg was. And then we know that we have to do a lot of work on existing buildings. And so focusing on building performance with advising, we provide incentives. Steve talked about the battery. We're moving away. CORE really has been moving our incentives all along since day one to encourage people to do the next right move to support the climate. And so now our focus is really on cold climate heat pumps with heating systems, not only for existing buildings, but for new buildings. We see the value of those, and some people may say, oh, they don't work in high altitudes or cold climates. That's wrong. They work in cold climates, and there is technology that's been developed by Carrier, by Arctech, by various companies that work here in our cold climate. And we may need to augment it a little tiny bit with electric, but we don't want to rely on electric. That's why we call this beneficial electrification. You don't want to go back to using baseboard heating and old technology. That's old, inefficient technology. And what we've seen when new buildings are built with electric baseboard heating, while it's cheap to install for the builder or the developer, it's not cheap to pay for by the occupants. And we've been working on how we can change that modality, especially in affordable housing. And I think Basalt Vista was a good example of what we can do right now, and we don't have to wait for new technology. We've been really focusing on expanding climate action with our technical expertise. We have on our staff folks who really stay up to date on technical side of things, Marty Treadway and Mike Boucher on the commercial side. And we now have an intern who's an electrical engineer who really understands beneficial exploitation, which is important. And I think the other piece is that we feel like we've been really responsible in managing and administering the rent dollars. As Cindy knows and Greg know, we have a finance committee who are overseeing. It's a finance committee of one, and myself right now, since we just lost Ann Mullins. Hopefully we'll get another board member on there, but we have financial responsibility for the managing all of the funds that CORE receives, and so yeah, we take pride in doing that correctly. Just some of our accomplishments in 2019, and I want to show 2019 and 2020 because as we all remember, or maybe we've forgotten, we were in the middle of the pandemic, but in 2019, we issued $1.3 million in rebates, and that money gets leveraged, and we secured about $10 million in partner funds. Total project costs were $37 million, and the economic benefit to the community is $83 million. And you may say, well, how does that happen? And studies have shown, economic studies have shown that for every dollar you spend on energy efficiency and clean energy, you get 2.23 back into the economy. So that's how that was calculated. In addition, we were able to eliminate about almost 7,000 metric tons of CO2, and we're showing about $900,000 in utility savings. That's equivalent to about 1,500 cars off the road. And as when I was talking to Greg, I mean, there were probably 1,500 cars on the road this afternoon. They were up to the ABC. Yes. Oh, in 2020, our accomplishments included about almost $900,000 in rebates grants, $850,000, and we were able to leverage double that in partner funds, $1.7 million, and the project costs were $17 million. We still had an economic benefit of $39 million. So we were able to eliminate about half of last year's CO2, 3,500 million tons, and then, or metric tons, excuse me, and then about $500,000 in annual utility savings and 740. So one of the projects that we've been working on for about a year is the Soldner Center, and it's been delightful working with Kathleen Soldner, and we have a little testimony from her.
I'm Stephanie Soldner. When I think about CORE, the first thing I think about is collaboration. They came to the Soldner Center and listened to us. They listened to our goals and our needs, and then made suggestions as to how we might reduce our carbon footprint and increase our energy efficiency. Not only that, but they also helped us with implementing the suggestions, both in terms of the technical support, but also with funding, with matching funding, which was very important to us. Now, more than ever, it's important to support CORE in its mission and its involvement with our community.
Some of the other, as I mentioned, we've been going through, not going through, but we've really embraced beneficial electrification. And we have a number of projects that we've been working on and highlighting over the last year or so. And we started out with the Path to Zero, and that focuses on existing buildings, homes, and businesses, multifamilies. We're just really trying to create some replicable models with that. We have SKICO Housing. SKICO Housing, that is 150 bedrooms. You've probably been reading a little bit about it in the paper recently. That's in the Willits area, and they're occupied. And with CORE support through grants and a lot of technical advising, we were able to convince them that this could really be a model project. And then of course Basalt Vista, and we provide ongoing support to them. It's an income qualified program, and just a little anecdote, when I had a ski accident in February, and it was pretty bad. Anyway, I was in the hospital, and I was dealing with a PT there, and I asked the woman where she lived, and she started to tell me that they had just gotten into Basalt Vista, and she started telling me all about Basalt Vista, how it was green and it was solar powered, and they were so excited. They lived in the valley for 13 years, and they finally found a place. And I have to say, it just made me feel so good that CORE really helped direct that to become what it is today as a net zero project. And so that was pretty exciting. And then, of course, the arts campus at Willis, if you don't know, it's one of the first performing arts center that will be net zero, all electric. That really started on with a conversation with the architect and Ryan Honey, CORE, RMI, and then Dave Monk, who also sits on the CORE board and the Holy Cross Energy board, talking about how this could be net zero, and they embraced it, and they raised, CORE provided a grant to them, but they have raised all of the money to build this project and make it what it is today. And it's pretty exciting because they'll be going forward and holding events based on the fact that it is net zero. So, and then in existing buildings, one of the efforts that we work in partnership with the city is historic preservation. And there are 12 small lodges, and we do a lot of advising and provide funding, some incentives to those small lodges to maintain them. So that's how we invest the grant dollars. So in 2022, what we really want to do is expand our outreach for climate action and beneficial electrification. And we will be doing that through in a number of ways, and that's through some contractor outreach, through working with our communities, through regional climate action. As I mentioned, we're in the process of conducting the emissions inventories with Aspen, Picken County, Town of Basalt, and Snowmass Village. This is the first regional climate emissions inventory that we've done. We've all done them individually, but this will be a regional one, so that'll create more regional action. What we'd like to do is work with you to develop the carbon reduction and resiliency strategy. That came up about a month or two ago, I think, during one of your discussions when you were adopting, you were looking at how you were going to upgrade the boilers at the library. And I think that was a conversation you all had about how do you look at all of your buildings holistically. And so we thought this is an opportunity for CORE to provide support to Picken County with your staff to really develop a carbon reduction and resiliency strategy in large sense. We want to leverage regional partnerships to expand our impact. And I think this DOLA project that we're completing is an opportunity. There's also opportunities. Five Vitamin, I think she's on, I saw her. She's been working with the communities to really bring everybody together and work individually with each community and then bring the communities together so we can leverage our regional partnerships. And we're still a part of Energy Smart Colorado. You may remember that. Some of you who've been on the board since 2010, that was formed, and that organization is still going, and we're part of that, and we leverage that partnership for information exchange and outreach ideas, other ways as well. We also want to, as this relates to the second bullet, just really help identify paths to move Picken County away from fossil fuels. And this relates to exploring an alternative, natural gas alternative, maybe a REMP specifically for natural gas, or looking at franchise agreements. Picken County, Town of Basalt, Snowmass Village all have franchise agreements with Black Hills Energy, and you probably are aware that in Oregon, they recently renegotiated their franchise agreement with their natural gas company. And it looks like summer will be coming up in the next couple of years, so we can review those and figure out what alternatives might we incorporate into our franchise agreements. We just really need to start moving away from fossil fuels. That's bottom line. We're going to achieve the goals that you all have adopted and that we need to achieve in order to preserve our planet. We want to improve affordable housing with a focus on net zero. And in fact, we are having a conversation with APJA recently. I'm not sure which one of you is on the APJA board. Patty, are you still on the APJA board?
No, it's Kelly and Francie.
Okay. So we've been talking with them. They've been talking about how they want to get those homes inspected before they get sold. And what we want to do is incorporate an energy assessment in them so that when you're buying or selling a house, you'll know what the energy efficiency opportunities are. So that's just one strategy, but we also want to focus on improving more affordable housing. And I would like to see some work with mobile homes. There's been a pretty successful mobile home project in Eagle County that we'd like to replicate here and on our side of the hill and with mobile homes. So, and then again, we want to integrate electrification requirements into the building code. That's the next step. You all have spent a lot of time on building codes, and we actually meet with the building code officials every quarter, I think it is, and talk about building codes and not all building codes, but the energy efficiency codes and how they can be made better, what kind of adoption rate they can be at, so that everybody's kind of on the same track with maybe there's little amendments. And then how do we really integrate electrification requirements into the building code? So as you know, CORE has been supporting better, adopting advanced building codes all along, but this is kind of that new phase of beneficial electrification. Then the other piece is that we want to really support architects and contractors to electrify all new homes, because while we have really good building codes, goes to the bullet above, we need to make sure that those 10,000 square foot, 5,000, 12,000 square foot homes are really all electric. That's what they need to be. They should not have boilers in them anymore. And we know that architects and contractors need to understand that it sounds not so positive, but we want them to understand that that is a possibility, and that is where we want to go. And so that not only will they achieve the HERS ratings that the county has set, but they'll also be more of a net zero home. And then we just want to continue to refine our programs to further decarbonize existing buildings, because we have a lot of existing buildings around Pickens County and into Eagle County, where we work as well in partnership with Eagle County. So we want to be able to do that. We're always looking at what is the next area that we need to push. So, and then by doing so, we want to catalyze more innovative projects like Chickaw and Basalt Vista with our incentive and grants. And so we'll continue a small grant program as long as we can and provide incentives, because we've had this conversation. We've talked a lot about whether we need incentives, whether we don't need incentives, and you need that incentive, that financial incentive, to get a person to that next hurdle. It's just going back to Stephanie Solner. She needed just that little bit of incentive to take that next leap, and the advising, which helps. So, and then we want to target major carbon sources outside of the greenhouse gas inventories. And as you probably know, carbon sources like emissions from coal mines, either active or abandoned, natural gas wells, natural gas pipelines, aren't really monitored as part of our emissions inventories. And what we have been working on recently, and I think Greg has updated you, is looking at coal mine or methane emissions from the coal mine in Pickens County. Is coal? Gosh, I just can't believe that. I might just
Coal Basin.
Coal Basin.
Coal Basin. Thank you. It's from Coal Basin.
Above Redstone. Yeah.
Yeah, it's over by Redstone. We looked at a 2016 study that the Colorado Energy Office had done, and that actually was identified as an abandoned mine, and it shows that there's quite a bit of methane leakage there. And so we've been working with a fellow who's a chemist, and he graduated from the Colorado School of Mines and has been looking at methane and have been exploring and gathering some information and some data about at what's happening in the coal basin. And it's interesting because that one has a lot of potential, or it has a lot of potential leakage. And so we've been taking some equipment over there and walking it, and we're looking at doing a little bit more in-depth analysis, and it's actually getting some traction, some interest from the federal government in that we're Senator Bennett's office and Senator Hickenlooper's office understands the importance of capturing or targeting carbon sources like mine emissions, and there's plenty of them around the country. I think there's something in the neighborhood of 640 some abandoned mines just in Colorado. And so it's something that we should be really looking at. And we've taken the initiative to start looking at this, and we'll see what happens. And we'll come back to you with an update on that one. And then again, just really focusing on 100% beneficial electrification. We need to, the mantra is electrify, electrify, electrify everything. And so that's where we're focusing our efforts. And then we'll be, as I mentioned, transforming CORE's funding. And so that's what we're looking at, how we are going to continue to meet these challenges, these carbon challenges. We've been, really tackling them since 1994. So here's some highlights of our financial transition. In 2020 and early 2021, we've started to look at new funding. So we've brought on Eagle County as a funding partner. When we drew back our territory, we started to look at Eagle County as a potential funding partner for the basalt and unincorporated Eagle County area. The Colorado Energy Office has helped support some trainings for our Imagine Climate this past year. All of the funding came from outside funding. And then we've developed a new program model for fee-for-services, providing HERS, those are the home energy rating system, and then also just doing some design work for potential homeowners or home builders. And then we've also brought on a grant specialist as a new employee for. So in summary, I think we're requesting your support for $500,000. And we're focusing on a decrease of 1,000 metric tons of CO2. And we'd like you to provide any support or feedback to develop a fully funded REMP request.
Okay, do we have Steve back? Oh, there's Steve back. Okay, I'm not going to say anything about your internet connection, Steve. Nothing. Not going to say anything. So Steve or Greg?
Sorry,
I know.
we were just bragging about my internet connection, and I didn't realize my laptop had become unplugged, so I lost my power.
We thought maybe the battery in the van ran out. Go ahead, Steve.
With your request, Mona, for the $500,000 from Pitkin County, is that just for your projected budget, which is below this year's budget? Why don't you ask for more money to try to maintain the 2021 budget?
I think Cindy's going to wait, Mona. I think Cindy's going to respond.
Yeah. Steve, I worked with Connie looking at our funding through REMP, and the $500,000 is about the maximum that we would be able to support CORE. At this point in time, we can always look as we get closer to 2022, but right now that would be about the maximum that we could support the CORE efforts, given the fact that we are finding that we have a lot of rebates going back to homeowners who are putting solar or other energy-saving techniques in their home to meet the code. And on top of that, we have fewer core dollars coming in because of our new energy codes. So we have the responsibility of ensuring that we have the money to pay back to the homeowner if they request a refund prior to their certificate of occupancy.
So you meant rep monies, not core monies coming back.
Rep monies.
Rep monies.
Thank you.
So Steve, go ahead.
Okay, then a follow-up question on that. What are the possibilities, and maybe this is where the grant applications come into effect, but what are the possibilities of getting money from the federal infrastructure effort that is going on right now to fund all of our program, perhaps?
Well, we certainly are exploring that. And so we're looking at how CORE can tap into those funds that will be available through the feds and through the state as well.
I think that's why you hired a new employee that's going to help you with grants, which is a wise thing to do.
Yes, and also we'll be exploring foundations and individual donations as well.
Okay. Steve, did you have anything else? Okay, Greg.
Yeah, great. Thank you. Thanks, Mona. Every time I see this, it gets better and better, and I really appreciate the work you put into it. And Cindy, your input, I know. I think we're getting closer, we're getting better. The things that I notice when you're talking and going down these lists, I think of these specifics that have come up in our board meetings at CORE regarding such things as you're talking about getting the contractors and the architects online up to speed with heat pumps versus your typical radiant heat systems. I remember one great conversation came up about training the contractors themselves, the workers who have always done it a certain way, and that's the way they do it. And they might even give lip service. Oh yeah, we're going to do this the best way. But the fact is, they really do need some training. We do need to do some education and training, and I think CORE could play a great role in that, in making our local contractors and workforce comfortable with things like heat pumps, so it becomes part of the discussion. I've been told over and over again by people doing this work that everybody will say they know how to do something, whether it's coming about putting in a new boiler system or replacing a boiler. They all say they know how to do it, but when it comes down to it, you need to make sure we've got the best trained engineers and contractors who really have some experience and know what it's going to take to make these things work. And then they do work. Otherwise, you get lip service. So CORE really has an outreach mission, a continuing outreach mission. And I honestly, just since I've been the rep to the board, have been impressed by, how that's progressing. And this presentation, I think, is an example of that. I like where it's going. And of course, I'm sure the other board members are going to want to see the presentation. So I'm sure we'll see you again soon. And there will be more. But the specifics, like I was the one who filmed that little thing with Stephanie Soldner, but she is so effusive about how CORE has really helped her with their mission to create Soldner Center, which is going to be an amazing public asset in the community, and we'll hear more about that too. So the other thing I wanted to bring up was just regarding policy. How do we move policy to make sure that mobile homes have the best insulation and energy technology available, and that we're not putting in ancient legacy systems that will be heat pigs or energy pigs. And the same with somebody building a new house. If they do it, as you said, the cheap way, they may be putting in really wasteful appliances and wasteful radiant heat systems, when we could be telling them, sorry, heat pumps are the way to go. And on that last note, just want to say my heat pump that I installed a couple of years ago works down to, I think, 13 degrees below zero. It will still pull energy from the atmosphere and heat my home. And it's just remarkable. I'm still in awe of it. And I haven't mentioned to my wife that it's actually an air conditioner also. So it just doesn't work in the summer and hasn't really needed to yet. But the fact is, it's an amazing home heating device.
Thank you.
So, Mona, could you go back to the slide you had that showed what you needed from us and had like, I think,
Yep.
3 bullet points? So,
Yeah.
as far as an interim update, I think if in late summer, I think if something changes significantly, then definitely. And we know you'll be back for the budget presentation in the fall, which is when the board will actually consider this officially. And we'll see what the program fund numbers are. And I don't think I need anything else to support this except to see what you come back with. If, there's some surprising change to the positive in the summer, and then we'll see what happens in the fall. So I am extremely impressed that you have this together so early in the season, for which I'm greatly appreciative of, because then we don't get hit with everything from the budget at the same time. This allows us to have a little more time and conversation, which I think is beneficial to everyone.
Hey,
Greg?
Patty, can I
Yes.
add that Mona, if you're able to talk to Francie and Kelly, at least in the interim, just to make sure if there are any red flags or anything that needs to be addressed, to make sure that we're not missing an opportunity if they do need more as we go into budget season. I just want to make sure you're, Cindy and Mona are, fully able to press forward with this as we go forward. But I certainly am supporting it. As the core rep, I support it. But I want to make sure if there are any questions from them, let's get that taken care of before the next opportunity is missed for the presentation.
And Greg, we can also ask
Thank
them if they'll tune in and watch this section of our meeting too. I think that would be beneficial for both of them. But on another note, Mona, before we leave, Stotts Mill, do we have any involvement, does CORE have any involvement with what's happening with Stotts Mill, which is, the big project just below Basalt Vista, between Basalt Vista and Southside?
I don't know if we do or not. Sorry, Marty would know that question.
If
but-
you could find out, because that's going to be a huge residential development. It's got great exposure, as does Basalt Vista, and it might be a great opportunity to see them follow suit with what we did just up the street. Yeah.
Great, I'll follow up with that. Do
Great.
you know who the developer is, or is that the developer's thoughts?
No, I don't know who the developer is. I drove by it going to Basalt Vista the other day, and I just realized that they're just kind of moving dirt around. I don't know if there's even curbs and gutters. I don't know what infrastructure they've put in yet. So it would be great if they were going all electric. But
Yeah.
just,
Patty, if I could, Mona mentioned that the governor was at Basalt Vista last week. Patty was there with me. It was really great to hear him talk about how Basalt Vista this is like the moonshot. It's the successful moonshot to demonstrate that we can do net zero, energy positive, affordable housing. And he was super enthusiastic about it, and he could tell that we are as well. And there is talk about doing more, of course. And, there's another project in Rifle. I'm wondering if maybe the tree farm property and, the Forest Service land, if that ever turns into housing with Basalt, that could be something on our radar. But anyway, the thing that I did want to mention here is the unsung hero for Pitkin County, of course, is John Peacock, who came in early on making Basalt Vista happen, and with our participation. And John, I'm sorry you weren't there. We probably would have recognized you had you been. Otherwise, I think people were coming up to me and congratulating me, and it didn't feel right. And I realized it's because you're the one who did the groundwork and the heavy lifting. So anyway, just wanted to make sure that people understand how big a role John played in that, and let's keep doing it. Let's do it again.
how long did
That's
it
true.
take
Thank you, John,
how
because,
long
you
did it
really
take to
stepped up.
negotiate that 3-party agreement?
That took a long time to negotiate, and thank you, Greg. And of course, it doesn't happen without leadership and agreement from the board. So that was a great project to be part of, and so glad to play a role in it.
It gets greater every time we go down there. It is amazing, and that's why it would be great to see if Stotts Mill down the street would at least take some guidance from a project just up the hill. So let's see what we
Hopefully
can do.
now that we have this one under our belt, we can figure out how to do some more like it.
Yeah, we got some more lined up. So does the city. We can
Yep.
work on that. All right. Anything else, Mona? Did you have anything last closing, or Cindy?
I don't, other than just thank you for your time and for your support and your feedback. I appreciate that. So,
And you are healing well or well healed by now? Good girl.
yep, I just got back from a week-long bike trip. I didn't ride every day.
Okay. Be careful out there. All right. Anything else from Steve or Greg? Nope. Okay. Thanks. We're going to be moving along. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
So next, John, where would you like us to go? Because we have board interviews, but I don't, oh, we've got Lisa McDonald, but I don't know if we have Lisa and John, or we could do future agendas. We've got like a half an hour.
Well, if Lisa is on now, I'm not seeing everyone's faces.
You see Lisa
this
McDonald or John Ely? No. So why don't we go to future agendas? Shall we kick that out?
Yeah, and I am going, we're doing a software change, which is requiring me to remember a password that I have not had to remember in a really long time. So
Would you like a copy in paper?
I will take notes, but I don't have anything without my electronic memory right now.
So does the board mind if I start off? Because you know me and my list of future agendas. So first, and I'm going to look at Steve Child, or maybe for the CC4CA policy statements, or maybe Cindy. Can we have those before the meeting on the 13th so we can review them before we have our discussion?
Sure. I think Kelly was handling that, but I will.
Like if you can follow up, because I think it would save us time if we have a chance to review them so we're not trying to catch up at the meeting. And then on the 20th, John, which is a work session, I am going to be out of town, and Steve will still be in Alaska and hopefully have good internet, but if not, I just want you to know I may or may not be able to Zoom into that meeting. Depends on circumstances with my mom. I will be leaving town on the 17th and returning sometime late on the 26th, so... and then on the 29th is our EOTC meeting, which I'm assuming there were no times listed on the agenda. I'm assuming it's 4 to 6. So we just need to add those times to the agenda. And then on the 28th, another, just a heads up, it's when Cindy comes back to the Board of Commissioners. Steve will still be out of town, and I have to recuse.
That will be published and all for the 25th of August.
Okay. Just I want to make sure we have a quorum, and I
you're
didn't
fine.
want the ski company to be aware that there may only be 3 commissioners on that meeting.
You're-
But now it's going to be moved to August, so,
Yes.
yeah.
25th.
And I want to clarify again, while I have an opportunity, that I still need to recuse because the ski company brought this application in as one master plan, not 2 separate issues. So I'm getting calls, I got some more about my being able to vote on just Pandora's, which the county attorney has advised me that no, I cannot. So, and I think that's all I have for our upcoming future agendas. Does anybody else? Steve, go ahead, please.
He's on mute.
Steve, you're on mute. There you go.
Can't see the screen that well, the little red thing, the line. Anyhow, on the 28th of July, it does have Pandora, but then I also had heard through the publicity by the group advocating for the Pandora project about the August 25th date, and I wanted clarification. I presume this is going to be more than one meeting to go through it all because they're going to have to present everything to us. With Francie being brand new, it's all going to be brand new information to her. So I think that it probably will take them 2 meetings, but why? What is actually happening on the August 25th date versus the July 28th date?
That will be the full presentation to the board
On the 25th.
on the August meeting, which I believe is the 25th, whatever your regular board meeting is. So that will be the beginning of that, Steve, where we will begin all over again. Because you're right, we wanted to republish, because it's been so long, 2 years, since the board heard the presentation. And a lot has been changed, a lot has happened, and I think both the county attorney's office and ComDev felt like we needed to republish everything and start from scratch.
So does that mean that the July 28th is not happening at all, or are they going to start the presentation on that date?
No, it will not be happening at all.
Okay. And I mean, I plan on being at all of our meetings. And there could be, if I have trouble with Zoom sometime, I might have to just phone in and be, on the audible part, but not on the Zoom part of a call is a backup option for me at any time.
Okay.
Patty?
Yes, Greg, please.
On that topic, since the master plan came as one unit, the board has voted on the first half of it. Is there any way that can be separated, or would the applicant actually consider that? Just wondering,
I should
since we're
step
kind
out
of
if
starting
they're
over, it's not a question for Patty as much as it might be for Cindy or for John Ely, but I'm just wondering if that's been part of their, have they been contemplating, is it possible to do that, or would that require, some sort of reset that they don't want to do?
You're talking about the SKICO master plan, or you're talking about the East of Aspen master plan?
Ski company master plan.
Well, yes, I'm trying to figure out how to separate them, because it sounds as if Patty has to remain recused
Right.
because the process has already begun with her recusal.
Should I step out, John?
But I'm just wondering if it's a question I'd love to have the answer to, but maybe that's a John Ely question.
I think we'll need to talk with Ryan, John Ely more.
Okay.
on that.
Steve, go ahead.
So as I remember, Greg, we did separate the question. It was like a Robert's Rules of Order procedure. I remember we did something where we separated the two, and then that allowed us to vote on the master plan part and allowed them to continue the Pandora part.
Steve and Greg, I think
That's my recollection,
yeah.
but then John Ely can confirm what exactly we did.
So let's
with
wait.
Robert's Rules of Order.
Let's wait to further discuss this till we have an opinion from the county attorney's office. Either that, or I'm going to have to
Right.
leave the room.
Oh, I just realized that, Patty. Sorry. Yeah. if Patty leaves the room, it all falls apart.
Yeah,
You're
not leave the
driving
room. We're
bus.
done. So, okay. So, any other future agendas before us? No. Do we have John Ely on? Because I know John wanted to join Lisa. Is he coming, Lisa? He's supposed to be on. Okay.
Yeah, he's coming. Connie Baker is coming, and Bill Yoakum is coming. So I think we were set for about 3:15, so they might be,
Okay.
just waiting a little bit.
We've got
so.
more we can do. So let's move to
Okay.
open discussion.
Open discussion. The main issue I had for you for open discussion is that we do have an upcoming vacancy on the APSHA board. It's and I'm trying to remember who's going off right now. Let me pull up the email here. At any rate, it is a joint appointment between the Board of County Commissioners and the City Council. How we did this last time, this is a process question for the board, is when we redrafted the IGA, it was with the intent that the council and board would review applicants and act together to make an appointment to the APSHA board, and we did the interviews together. And so wanted to get some input from the board about how you'd like to proceed with filling this vacancy. The city council is also going to be having a similar conversation, but we could plan for interviews, for example, at a joint meeting of the board and council.
Have we had anybody apply?
I do not know where we stand on the applications right now or how many we have.
Well, I think having Kelly and Francie, since they sit on the board, would be key to this discussion. But Greg or Steve, do you have any position on how we want to fill this position? Steve?
I think it would be expedite the process if we could do the interview as a joint meeting, so the person only has to be interviewed once. We might ask different kind of questions in 2 different meetings, which perhaps could be beneficial.
Yeah, the only thing is trying to get all of us together to do one interview might be take longer than just interviewing the person separately. But Greg, what do you think?
Yeah, getting a joint meeting together may be tough. I don't have a thought on that yet, but I'll put my head to it. I can think of, people I'd be interested, not particularly personalities, but just skill sets that I'd love to, to propose bringing onto the APTA board, but I don't have anything to add to it right now. I'm gonna have to think about that.
So let's run it by Kelly and Francie too, John.
Yeah, we can run by, and as you all are processing, I think one of the reasons that we tried to do it jointly too is easier for the applicants, for the volunteers, than scheduling 2 separate times for interviews.
But I don't know if I'd want to be interviewed by
That'll
both
be-
boards
that'll
at
be
the
the-
same time.
That'll be the easiest thing the applicant ever goes through.
Yeah, 10
They
people
actually get
interviewing
put
you
on
at
that
one
board.
time. Yeah, that'd be really fun. I'd want that position in a heartbeat. Okay, so we'll wait and see. We'll get some input from Francie and Kelly, and we'll probably be bringing it back next Tuesday. John, did you have anything else for
That's
open?
Yep.
I know, Steve, you wanted to talk about the email we got from Mr. Lusk about the dust coming off the solar. I pulled up the photographs, and I expected to see like plumes of oil and gas rig dust blowing up and down the valley. There was some significant dust, but something I think that can be easily mitigated, and I think we have environmental health, as you know, I think Kurt Dahl was cued in, and he was out of town. I think he should be back now.
Right. We have it scheduled for July 13th to come before the board and do an update on the permit and all the conditions of approval. Oh, thank you. I don't know if anybody could hear all that. We have
We heard you.
a meeting, scheduled. And so we'll come back with all of the conditions of approval, both Leslie Lamont, who is the planner, and Kurt Dahl with Environmental Health will come back and talk about those conditions and what's happening with the project. So
Okay.
just to update everybody.
So, Steve, does that answer
I
you?
could add a
Yeah. Greg, go ahead,
I
then
would just
Steve.
add that I see the same plumes and I photograph them occasionally, and I encourage Stuart, because he sends them to me, and I said, sure, just if you see one, take a picture of it and send it to me. It's great documentation of the whole process, and if he's willing to do that. The thing I've noticed is in the mornings, of course, those plumes blow up valley, and they really don't come anywhere near people in inhabited areas, and they're not significant. It's not like an awful lot of dust, as Patty said. I haven't seen them in the afternoons. I haven't seen an issue where they're approaching the inhabited areas. So I have to say, while I do appreciate his concern, and I do think we should be mitigating however they can with watering or whatever, I don't see a huge issue yet. But I'd leave that to Kurt Dahl to make the conclusion on that.
All right. Steve, did you want to add? Go ahead, Steve.
So when I looked at the photograph, to me it looked like it was diesel exhaust from the drilling or whatever well, I don't know exactly what they're doing over there. It's something to do with either drilling holes or maybe it's rock dust that is the plume that's going into the air. Can you tell, Greg, from where?
I think it's just the accumulated dirt. It looks like just a fine dust, because it kind of hangs in the air for a bit. And I don't think it's rock. I think I don't think there is rock where they're drilling. I don't think they're going that low. So it didn't seem to be, if they have to do 13,000 holes or whatever it is to get every panel, then, certainly we need to be on top of it. But from what I've seen so far, I think it's a little bit it's almost like the surface fine dust that blows around. And they're kicking some of that up. And maybe a little bit of water on the solution could take care of that.
Yeah,
And I think they're still doing pilot holes.
so that's what I was thinking. On the 13th, we could bring that up if Kurt Dahl or somebody doesn't talk to them in the meantime, and maybe they just need to shoot a little water in there and to cut the dust down while they're doing a hole.
Okay,
Might be the entire solution.
Cindy's got a comment here, gentlemen.
Yeah, Kurt can go into it in more detail, but he did send us an email saying that given the use of the property before and the regulations that the sand district is held to, you cannot add water to the mixture when you're drilling down into the area. And they're only, Greg, I think going 6 feet down. I think you're right about the type of dust, and they're not hitting rock. So I think, Kurt can answer a lot of your questions.
Because you don't want to dilute the soil into the surface water or groundwater.
Apparently, that's the reason.
Yeah. So it'll come back on the 13th in one way or another, just maybe a memo or maybe a full discussion. So John will look at getting Kurt some time then on that. Any other open discussion other than that?
Yeah, there was another email from a neighbor of mine up the road from my house. She lives beyond the part where the county traditionally does routine maintenance. So the county road crews are up there right now doing the road grading, the rolling, and putting mag chloride on up to a certain point on the county road. This family has a new baby, and they live just beyond there on the steep part where the road starts going up towards the Capitol Creek trailhead. And she asked if it was possible if the county could do a mag chloride treatment on the road right by her house, because it's this fine road dust that gets kicked up every car. And right now it's becoming, it's the season for people to start going up to Capitol Peak, and so there's a lot of traffic by there. I think she already talked to people in the Road and Bridge. I think she talked to Scott Mattice about it, but and I guess that's what I would suggest is we need to find out more information from Scott Mattice about where does the county officially quit doing the routine maintenance. I always thought that the steeper part was part of the Forest Service maintenance of the road, that the county actually does that, but at a different level of treatment and a much less frequently than they do the annual maintenance on the main part of the county road. So I think I personally would need more information on it.
Got it.
But it would be something I think Scott Mattice or Brian Pettit probably would be able to answer a lot of the questions for us. So maybe we could get an update on that at our next meeting. John, if you could follow up on that. I don't know if you received that email.
I didn't see anything, but the only concern would be if they're.
I will find it and forward it to send it to John and then send it to Charlotte to get to.
Yeah, the only thing
all
is,
the commissioners.
Steve, if they're already doing the work up there, I don't know if we'd be able to add this to their plan right now, but maybe it's something for future discussion. But yeah, if we could get more information for our next meeting, and even if it's just a memo, we'd be fine. Anything else, Steve? Okay, Greg.
Yeah, just, in passing, I'm sure all of you have heard about there's an inflation in TDR value that's pretty shocking. And I remember bringing up the hoping that we would schedule a work session on TDRs and how we employ them and use them sometime in the future. So I just want to put that as, keep the flag flying for that to get on a future agenda. Enough about that for now.
Okay, I think Cindy's got a comment.
Greg, I thought that the board had decided that we were going to roll that in with all of the other discussions on growth management, since it's a part of that discussion. So I don't have it scheduled now. If there's other direction, I need to know.
Yeah,
that's.
I don't think we're in an emergency situation, but it's just front and center in my mind, and looking forward to that conversation.
The one thing the board did ask us to do is a deeper dive into growth management, because we do have newer members that haven't had the history with the growth management process and the quota system and, the context, how it came about and all of that. So I have that scheduled for July 26th. And so maybe we can bring up some of that then.
That's great. That would be great. Thanks, Cindy.
Okay.
Okay, any other open discussion? Seeing none, I'm going to see, do we have John Ely on this meeting yet? Or should we take a 10-minute break and see if we can get John on board, and Connie?
Hey, Patty, I do have one more short, quick thing, just because it's on the front and center right now. With all those closures in Glenwood Canyon, we're definitely seeing more activity on Highway 82 and Independence Pass. I know they've managed to stop probably several semis. I actually alerted the sheriff to one myself the other day. But I also know we've had some closures because of stuck semis on Independence Pass. And so I just want to make sure the public understands we are doing as much as we can about that. And if, John, you want to add anything, but I've had people ask me, like, well, why aren't you guys posting a sheriff or a gate or I say, well, I think we do have vigilance there, because when Independence Pass gets shut down, the economic impact for that, it would be pretty daunting to calculate, and it would be pretty high, I think. To have a road like that closed this time of year changes a lot of people's travel plans. John, anything you can add?
And Greg, as we do have time, both CDOT and Colorado State Patrol have also been partnering with us to try and have resources at both sides of the pass. Unfortunately, especially with the rains, which we're really excited to be getting, but it hasn't been very predictable. Those resources haven't always been able to, I think, be at both sides of the pass in a timely fashion. So we certainly are working with our partners also in the city of Aspen, through the Sheriff's Department, Department of Transportation, and Highway Patrol to really try and limit that. But it is a lot of volume, and as you've said, we have had some get through, sometimes on the Lake County side, sometimes on our side, that have caused some closures or lane closures, particularly at those tight spots that we all know so well. So we are continuing to work on it.
Steve?
The other night when we drove over Independence Pass, Glenwood Canyon was closed. We needed to get to the airport. There was, on both sides of the pass, on ours and Lake County side, there was a vehicle parked at the final turnaround point with a flashing light going. It was a fire truck actually sitting over on the Lake County side. Then there was a law enforcement vehicle pulling over a semi like at 1 o'clock in the morning the other night on the Lake County side, who was just approaching the final turnaround. Some big, huge semi was trying to get over there. So they are doing their part on the Lake County side too. I was really pleased to see that. And trucks are trying to go over there. I saw other trucks down on the main highway, like towards Leadville, who appeared to be turning around and going back. Somehow they figured out they're not going to be able to go that way. They need to change their plan. So there are a lot of trucks in funny locations trying to get going the right direction, because we don't want them coming over Independence for sure.
Yeah, there is an action plan in place, particularly after we had the first kind of unplanned closure because of accidents on the pass. The first time we had the rains gosh, I guess that was just last summer, wasn't it?
It was actually the fire, when the fire and the,
Oh, it's the Grizzly Creek fire. Thank you. Yes, we're still suffering from the Grizzly Creek fire in that regard. And our partners have been doing a good job following through as they can. And like I said, it's the short notice is sometimes hard to respond to. People get up there quicker.
I wish we had space where we could not only find them, we could impound their truck for 24 or 48 hours, because that's a big hit to truck drivers. That's why they don't want to go the long way, because they want to take the short route. And it's just a public safety issue besides the economic impact issue. So, yeah, it's pretty significant. Okay, can we take 10 and then come back at 3 o'clock, and hopefully we'll have everybody, we'll have Connie on board, and we'll be ready to go with the Healthy Rivers and Streams. Does that work? Okay, Grassroots, we're gonna take 10. Because John's here, we just wanted to. Very safe and happy 4th of July. So we are continuing the Board of Commissioners regular or work session meeting. Steve Child is calling in from Alaska. We appreciate that. Greg is at home. I am in the building. Kelly's on an airplane, and Francie's in Denver. So it's a very interesting group here today. So next item on our agenda is Healthy Rivers and Streams request to add a full-time employee, and we have John Ely from the Attorney's Office. We have Lisa McDonald from Healthy Rivers and Stream. We have Connie Baker from Budget. Or I don't know what title you have these days, Connie, but Connie is the one who knows where all the money is coming from and going to. And we have Bill Yocums, who sits on the Healthy Rivers and Streams Board. So Lisa, please, we've been waiting for this conversation, so the floor is yours.
Good. Well, good afternoon, everybody, and thanks, Patty. As Patty mentioned, today I'm joined by John Ely, our county attorney, Connie Baker, our budget director, and Bill Yocums is here. He is our vice chair, chairman of our Healthy Rivers and Streams board. And I just wanted to note that Greg Poshman was one of our originals, along with Phil, on the Healthy Rivers board. So we appreciate all of his work. So in front of you today for discussion is a request for a full-time staff position for the Healthy Rivers program. The program has seen exponential growth in the past 12 years since its inception, and there's a desire to further the breadth of the program, and current staffing is inadequate to do so. I've included in the agenda item summary our projects, efforts, and work that we have accomplished to date. And although the list is extensive, I think I've probably missed a few things. But I wanted to really showcase all the hard work that the program and the board has accomplished since its 12 years. And so to realize the full potential of the program, we are seeking a specialist to assist with current duties and devise new strategies and in-house projects. I did include a glimpse of just one construction project entails, and I think we are at approximately 4 construction projects with Whitewater Park, the modifications, and the wrap-up of the Robinson project that we just finished. So I'll just give a little synopsis of what happened at the Robinson project. So approximately 2 years prior to construction, we held numerous BOCC meetings, river board meetings, and stakeholder meetings, and sought grant opportunities that we thought were appropriate for the type of project that we were doing. We applied for 3 grants, and we were awarded those 3 grants. Grant applications included presentations in front of the grantors in 3 different locations across the state. I think in Denver, 1 in southern Colorado, and 1, I think, a little north of Denver. So that includes, driving to presentations, getting there, presenting, and all of that. So upon award of a grant, administration required deliverables, reporting, and requests for reimbursements are also needed. The CWCV grant awards required reports every few months, and so it just kind of gives you an idea of everything that goes in just to 1 grant, let alone 3. Then requests for proposals are put out to bid. Solicitations come in. We have to draft all the documents for those bids, which include contracts, tech specs, plans, bid tabs. Everything is put online. A selection committee is gathered. Scoring and award of the contract occurs, and construction then begins. On-site construction management happens. We do most of our work in the winter, as you know, and we are always concerned about ice flows. Every project we've done, we've had ice flow warnings and some issues, and so we have to keep in constant contact with the contractors down there to make sure everybody stays safe. Should something happen, that could be devastating down there. So on-site construction happens. We drafted 3 different license and use agreements and executed those with 3 different landowners around the property at Robinson. We applied for 4 different permits with 4 different permitting agencies, including FEMA, the Army Corps, which we work with CPW with, Town of Basalt, and Eagle County. The project was right on the Eagle County and Town of Basalt line, so we worked with both of those local municipalities for the work. We held meetings with landowners prior and after the project completion, and with other local government entities prior and after construction as well. With COVID, we had to develop a COVID construction plan. We created an informational signage because it's a popular walking spot, so people were wondering what was going on out there. So we had signs up, so that answered a lot of questions. We did social media posts, we did photography, we did drone footage, we did media requests. A lot of a couple of the papers wanted to come down and check things out, so we arranged all of that with the contractors. So all of this and more just went into one construction project. And I wanted to go through like the list that's in your packet about the projects and efforts that we've done to date. I won't read everything out, but I wanted to go through a few of them. We did the Stapleton Brothers Ditch Water Trust Agreement with the CWCB. We did geomorphic assessments out at North Star. We had a successful opposition in the West Divide case. We partnered with WUWAPA with the Invasive Species Program. We have the popular Osprey Cam. And we developed the Youth Water Leadership Summit with Wild Rose Education, which had a total of 375 students participating in that. We've held public educational meetings, and we are hoping to gear those up again after COVID. Those included speaker series. We did a drug take-back day. That included putting little postcards on all the prescriptions throughout all the local pharmacies in the valley. We participate in the Penny Hot Springs Committee, and we try to attend the KIPU meetings, Basin Roundtable meetings, and collaborated and funded part of the Roaring Fork Watershed Plan. We provide public comment letters and letters of support to numerous entities. We are now supporting local efforts on the wild and scenic designation of the Crystal River. We issue Roaring Fork Watershed High School students scholarships. We received over 40 scholarships over the last few years and awarded 11 scholarships. We have education and training for the board and staff. We've attended 78 conferences, workshops, and educational meetings to further enhance the education. We provide sponsorships for 23 different events, including Think Outside the Banks. It was a landscaping seminar we did. We provide sponsorship for the Headwaters magazine, Water Leaders Education Programs in Redstone. We provided funding for the Aspen Global Change Institute Weather and Soil Moisture Science Kits, citizen science kits. We have a biannual grant program that we've awarded 42 projects, approximately $741,000 in funding. So that's just a little bit of what we do. I think that I spelled out a little bit more in your packet. So that's just a quick showcase of the great program that we have and the great work that we do. And I think with that, I might turn it over to John Ely. If he has any questions, then Connie is here to answer any budget or fund information you might have.
So John, before you start, I have a question for Lisa. When you say we, who's the we in we, Lisa?
Me.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify.
Well, I mean,
that.
the board does a lot, but I mean, all the administration, all of this falls on me right now.
Okay, thank you. John, did you have anything you wanted to add?
Well, for perspective, I guess I would point out to the board something that everybody already knows, and that is that the world of water is a very competitive place. And as hard as we try to collaborate with other entities, many times self-interest on the part of other parties tend to, invade that collaborative process. And about 2006 or so, the county started to perceive that that was a significant problem. And we decided collectively, and when I say we, I mean the BOCC at that time, decided that it was improvident to rely upon others to have our back in this arena. And by 2008, that issue came to a head with the authorization by the voters to support this program with a dedicated sales tax. I think that all of the information in your packet relates to the idea that over the life of this program and the imposition of this tax, the county has successfully established for itself an individual and unique voice in this world of water. That we have continually looked for creative solutions to problems, that we have continually sought to advance the needs of the Upper Roaring Fork, the Frying Pan River, and the Crystal River, and that we have done so in a way to be as collaborative as possible with other entities and other water stakeholders in the Roaring Fork drainage and the western Colorado. So the reality of it is that we've got a program here that has done a lot of a program that has accomplished a lot and that is on the verge of expanding and growing more and is capable of doing much more than we've already done. And it's ready to take that next step. And with that is the need for personnel. Lisa can't do this by herself. In fact, it's a 3-person program. So after you guys approve this position today, we're going to have to start thinking about a 3rd individual. So I would ask the board to wholeheartedly support this position so that the program can continue to grow, so that we can continue to look for and develop fresh ideas for water conservation and preservation enhancement of stream flows in our watershed. And we can continue to grow this program and to grow Pickens' voice. Now that's about all I have to say on this particular request.
Okay, thank you, John. Connie, I'm going to look at you if you wanted to add any budgetary, because I know that is a key point in this request.
Yes, so the board will remember that in the 2021 budget process, this was one of the positions that was proposed. At that time, it was not recommended right away, but we put it on our list of pending positions, meaning that we felt it needed a little bit more time to flesh out and bring back to the board for discussion, but it was not a rejected position. It was one that we let the board know ahead of time we would be bringing back mid-year in 2021. The estimated dollar amounts are shown there in your packet, and the Healthy Rivers Fund does have a very healthy fund balance and has enough funding to fully support this position ongoing.
Great, thanks, Connie. I have a question about the tax itself. Is it a perpetual? There's no sunset on this sales tax, is that correct? Okay.
It's a perpetual tax and has no limitation.
Great.
So it will grow with sales tax revenue.
Great, thank you. Does the board have any questions for Connie or Lisa at this time? Steve?
So if we add this a new full-time position, and Lisa, I'm not sure how much of what percentage of your time is spent on the water issues and what percentage of your time is spent on other issues, but will you continue kind of at the same percentage of doing some water things? I mean, I'm assuming there would be a different person. I mean, the full-time water person might be you, and we might hire somebody else to replace you, what you're doing now on your other matters. I want to get a better feel for, that division of labor for the responsibilities.
The problem, Steve, is that Lisa's time adds up to like 110 or 120%, and that's an impossibility. So she'll be 100% in the river program and administering that program.
Greg, did you have anything?
So John, then we would have another person, we'd hire another person who would be doing some river things, but other legal matters unrelated to that. Is that what you're envisioning?
The legal matters, well, I'll tell you what, you can't do anything in this world of water without good engineering and without legal assistance. We have legal assistance in-house, and I think that that's the most economical way to go. But I think what the program needs, and why I mentioned it as a three-person program, is you need somebody to take care of the day-to-day scheduling and the administration work and the correspondence and the scheduling and all that kind of stuff. You need somebody who can be the program director, which is what Lisa's default function has been for the last few years. And then you need somebody to assist and be immediately available from the perspective of an engineer or hydrologist who can work with the director and this newly created position for today to try to develop new programs, to try to think of new ideas, to try to develop new relationships with people that we can work with to accomplish the program's goals. In other words, to protect water actually flowing over rocks in natural stream channels. So that's how I would see the program growing and what the real needs of the program are. Until it fills out with the three bodies, so to speak, what we're forced to do is hire out for outside consulting work with other engineering firms or hydrologist firms.
So what you're saying then is we would be hiring a new person. Lisa and the new person both would be 100% working on water matters at this time, and then we would still be shorthanded for some of the things we need to do.
Well, I think if the program had three people at 100%, we would be swimming right along, so to speak. We have this position filled, Lisa working 100%, and then someone with the experience and expertise in hydrology or engineering. I think that would be an intact complement that would serve the program well.
Okay, Greg, and then I'm going to turn to Bill to see if he wants to add.
It's just amazing to see what's been accomplished, and John, you're right. The founding the Healthy Rivers Fund has been such a great benefit to the community, and I think other communities are watching with admiration at what we've been able to accomplish in our watershed with this program. And Lisa, I am just blown away. You never appear to be so busy or harried. Whenever I see you, you look so calm. How do you pull that off? I don't know. But I'm in awe, and I think it's great. And I would certainly be in favor of seeing this new position created. And as John says, it looks like we're going to a third as well. And Connie seems to be here to say that we can do this.
Okay, Mr. Yocums, would you like to share any comments with us? You're on mute. You need to unmute for me, please. Thank you, sir.
Did that do it?
That did it.
Okay. Well, our case is beautifully made in our packet. And to that, I only wish to add that this is very important to the board, has been for several years. And we want it to fully reach our potential. And so the board strongly supports this. The funds are there, there's no question about that, and they're dedicated to just the Healthy Rivers matters. We have the desire to do more. You can see that from the listed projects in the packet. And so all we're waiting for is you folks to say okay. And when you do, and when we get going, I'm confident that you will be proud of what we do, and we will be a credit to the county and to the program. Thank you. That's all.
Thank you. Well, I have just a few comments. Yeah, I think we've been talking about this for a while. I think Lisa's given us the information that we were asking for. As far as John throwing out a third person today, I don't necessarily, I mean, I understand the need for technical expertise, but I think that's another discussion. I think we need to move forward looking at this position. And I cannot help but mention that I would like to see some in-house space, either a shared touchdown space, so that we have the ability to have this department not totally out of the building. Because I think with finance and with the BOCC and I think the BOCC's interest and passion for the Healthy Rivers and Streams program, I think that would be of benefit to everybody. So that's for a future discussion, Lisa and John, as to where we might be able to, get some touchdown space and I mean, in this house, not in their own homes, but in this house that I'm sitting in today. So I know that Kelly will be interested in this because Kelly is the one who was really requesting more information. So hopefully we can have Kelly, involved in this decision moving forward. But I think we would be moving it to, Connie, the next supplemental budget request. Is that correct?
Yes, we will probably be bringing a midsummer supplemental to the board. We've got a number of issues that the board has heard over the last month or so that really shouldn't wait until September.
Okay.
So that will be coming back soon.
Okay, so if we can touch base with both Francie and Kelly, but I think you're hearing it from the three of us who are part of this meeting today that we would like to have that discussion come back with the midsummer supplemental budget request. Am I in agreement with you two gentlemen, Steve and Greg, on that? Okay. So anybody else want to? Yeah.
If I could weigh in just one
Sure.
more comment.
Sure.
I see this as enabling us to really unlock the potential of the Healthy Rivers and Streams Board, because they've been shorthanded in terms of staff. Basically, there's been so many big projects that have been going on, but having two people really engaged in it full time, we could really see huge progress from where we are now, and I'm really look forward to that.
Okay. Is everybody good? Thank you, Lisa. Bill, it's nice to see you. Thanks for calling in.
Thank you.
Okay, we are moving along
Thanks,
here.
everybody.
So Charlotte is here. I don't know if we have two interviews coming up, two citizen boards, one with Bob Plessett for our Telecommunications Advisory Board, and one with Kevin Mickelson for Planning and Zoning. So I don't see, we're early. We are being extremely efficient today.
Yeah, so Patty, we could, I think if the board, given that these are scheduled with potential citizen board members, it's unlikely that we'll see them change their schedule, I'm guessing.
I emailed them, but I'm not sure if they'll get that.
We
So
have,
it may be worthy of a break.
well, we have a half an hour. We have 35 minutes.
And we've already done open discussion and future agendas.
So what's the pleasure of Steve and Greg? What would you like to do? I'm afraid to let Steve go. We may never find him again.
I can give you the latest COVID numbers.
We're gonna get the latest COVID numbers, and I want you to make a public plea for people based on the Delta variant. issues in our neighboring counties to please.
It's funny, give me just a second. I
Okay.
was not planning on doing this, so just
I
give me
cannot
a
believe I'm
moment.
giving John time to do a COVID update.
Yeah, I'm gonna work on the presentation as we're chatting.
And Michaela, if you would just keep me in the loop if you see anybody. Thanks.
Okay,
Thanks, Charlotte.
so I'm gonna try.
You sent me down you copied something here.
Michaela.
Was this for you?
Oh, okay.
It's the P and Z. It came to my attention.
Got it.
Well, Elaine saw it and brought it in.
Are you all seeing that screen now?
Yes, sir.
Okay, just quickly, some of the key numbers that we're tracking. Not surprisingly, and as you'd anticipate with our mobility data going up, we are seeing our case counts increase. We're gonna really be watching this 2-week period post 4th of July. I think anyone that's been in town or tried to get in town even today sees we are pretty busy, and so this is the test that I think we're anticipating for this summer about how the vaccines are going to protect. Within our Central Mountain RETAC, we're currently at the 76% of ICU beds in use. You'll recall 85% is the threshold that the state is using to reevaluate restrictions, and so it's hovering probably a little higher than we'd like to see in that regard. So we'll be watching that over the next couple weeks too. To your point, Patty, you know, we're on the right track right now, but this isn't over. Delta variant, especially Mesa County right now, one of our neighboring counties, is really struggling with the spread of the Delta variant. You see in daily reports, if you're keeping track in the paper, their numbers have been consistently high. So we're watching that. We do have sequencing from our testing locally here for the Delta variant occurring, and we're really going to be watching what happens after the 4th of July. We're lucky we have high vaccination rates overall, certainly higher than the national and state averages, and so right now the evidence is that those vaccines are still protective against these variants, maybe to a somewhat lesser degree in terms of incidence rates. But we still need folks to be a little careful. I shared this before, but just wanted to share again. In 2021, Pickens County was named in the top 25 counties by U.S. News Report and the Aetna Foundation as the healthiest counties in the nation. And they went ahead and took those top 25 healthiest counties and ranked them by COVID deaths versus population. And this is a list you want to be at the bottom of, and Pickens County is at the bottom by a rather significant amount, I might add, in that our deaths to population through the time of this study, we were the lowest among the 25 healthiest counties in the nation. And I think that speaks volumes about the protective measures that our health department and our Board of Health put into place, and more importantly, how our community stepped up, particularly while our incidence rates were high. We clearly protected vulnerable populations, and it, you know, I often hear that it's because we are already a healthy county. Well, we performed well even against the healthiest counties in the nation. But to the point, Patty, that I think you were making when we started this is We do have these variants that do spread more quickly. They appear to have more significant health impacts, and so still really important for us to practice responsibility and respect with each other and as a community. We're really focused on now, we've moved from the 5 commitments to containment to the 4 healthy best practices. Anyone who wants a vaccine in Pickens County can get one. Even if you're not from Pickens County, you can get one here. So getting vaccinated is really our best protection. Continue to socialize smart in terms of knowing the people that you're socializing with, and when you're in mixed groups, outside is always best. Avoiding crowds when possible, and when in doubt, mask up. And if you're feeling sick, do not show up. Do not show up to work. Do not show up to those social events. Do not show up to that theater or music performance. We need to protect the ability of those groups to continue to operate by keeping our numbers low. So even if you're feeling those symptoms that you're pretty sure are allergies this time of year or the summer cold, stay home. Don't take the risk and don't put others at risk. And as we've all learned, that's well timed, Michaela. And as we've all learned over this year, just keep washing your hands.
Well, I want to add to that too. So many people who think they just have had a cold and have the wherewithal to, even though they're vaccinated, to go get tested. There are people that have been testing positive, whether it be to one of the variants or whatever. So that's why it's important to just play it on the safe side. And, if you're not feeling well, and the testing is still available, and it's still free, right? Mm-hmm. And if you go to one of the testing sites, it's on the county website where you can find out where testing is available. I think throughout the valley you can pull it up. Mm-hmm. So if you're in Carbondale or Glenwood Springs, where your opportunities are to be vaccinated and tested.
Yeah. And there are, masking, still encouraging. There are a lot of venues that are requesting or requiring masks when you go in. Aspen Valley Hospital, for example, is still requiring masks and screening as you go in as a best practice. Just really ask people to comply with those requests and those added protective measures. And to honor those who are choosing to take those protective measures for themselves, even when it's not required, and to honor those requests to do it yourself. So we are on the right side right now still of this battle with COVID, with our vaccination numbers and where our data stands, but this pandemic is far from over nationally or internationally, and so we still need to keep our guard up and continue to monitor and continue to take protective measures with each other. So
the other thing too, reading about an event that happened I think it was in the Netherlands, maybe 160 people, because people used fraudulent vaccination cards. I just think that's totally unacceptable. This is not a game we're playing when you're playing with people's lives and people's livelihoods. So if you're choosing not to get vaccinated, it's your choice, but please don't get a fake vaccination card so you can go to a concert or something and not wear a mask, because you're putting others around you at risk, especially with variants, especially with the Delta variant, which is proving to be fatal in a lot of cases, besides intensive care, hospitalizations, ventilators, and probably lengthy, maybe lifelong lingering effects. So please just be honest with yourself and honest with those around you. And if you're not going to get vaccinated, that's a choice that you have the right to make, but please don't expose others around you.
And Patty, thanks for bringing that up, because I can guarantee you it is easier, cheaper, and safer to get a real vaccine than a fake vaccine card. So it just makes sense to do.
Especially if it comes back on your conscience when those are around you and somebody gets significantly ill or fatally ill. You know, the onus is on you as an individual. Greg?
Thanks for that. I really hadn't contemplated fake vaccine cards because I haven't heard about them here, but I'm just wondering what sort of incidents do we have of it? What evidence do we have that that's an issue here? And then what penalties are there? And do we need to look at that? And who would consider penalties if it's not us or the Board of Health? But then the other question was, can you update us on what's happening with Mesa County and Garfield County? Because I hear more about them and the rates of Delta variant than I do. I think we're doing pretty well by comparison, but the appearance is that it's coming this way.
Yeah, so Greg, I wasn't actually prepared to do this, believe it or not. I'm pulling these up on the fly to give you an update. So I don't have the specific data from Mesa County. What I do know is the daily numbers have been between 40 to 60 new cases. It does appear that a majority of the cases are among unvaccinated, and that the Delta variant is becoming the majority cases in Mesa County. That is not, I believe, true in Garfield County, but I think you're starting to see it come up through western Garfield County. And of course, we share a lot of workforce and population with both, frankly, Mesa and Garfield counties. And so we're monitoring this closely. I know the state is monitoring what's happening in Mesa County very closely because of the high incidence of Delta variant that is occurring there. I do know that Mesa County's vaccination rate is much lower right now than Pickens County's. To go back to your first question, our numbers are based on confirmed doses given, so we don't. But within our percentage of population vaccinated, there's not any room for fake vaccination cards or such, and I don't think we have any known incidents of it here, but it is something that's starting to come up in the media, and we're going to need to probably think about, particularly if our incidence rates really start going up unexpectedly. That's probably a sign that either the vaccines aren't working or those who say they are vaccinated aren't.
Right.
And right now we're not there.
Well,
so
and if
that's
exposures
good.
are coming from an event where we know they were requiring proof of vaccination, and I think that's what happened in, I think it was the Netherlands, where everybody had to show proof of it. They had a significant outbreak.
Yeah.
So it's just something just for people to be aware of. But I have a real quick question. What do we still have Moderna, Pfizer, and Johnson & Johnson available?
That is a great question. I think the answer to that is yes, but I would need to double check with our team.
Just for the public, so the public would know.
I know we've been trying to keep Moderna in play because it is, I think that has been approved for the lowest age group at this point. So
people have, a lot of people who've been holding off have been doing their homework, researching, watching the numbers, watching the news on all sides, and they may have a vaccine of choice because of the homework they've done. So I want to make sure we have those vaccines of choice available.
According to our COVID-19 website, all are available
Great.
all across the
okay, thank you.
So all vaccines are available, and you can go to the county website, and they'll provide information as to where vaccines are available and how you can register to get a vaccine, and testing also. So the public needs to know that we are still on track with that and still providing those services.
And vaccine.
Anyone who's
Oh, I'm sorry,
anyone
Patty.
who wants them.
Yep.
Go ahead, John.
At no cost. I just
At no
wanted to.
cost. Thank you.
Yeah. So on the fly, that's what I have
good.
for you.
That was good. And you kept it under an hour and hour and a half, hour.
I think
2
that's
hours.
the first one.
Greg, Steve, do you have questions for John on our quickie COVID update?
And it looks like Kevin is here.
Okay, Steve, please.
So, Patty, just wanted to give a quick report on my flight here both planes I flew on were 100% full, every seat taken. The airlines are being absolutely adamant that you have to be masked on the airplane, in the airports also. Once you go in the front door, you have to have your mask on. And the only time they allow people to take them off is if they're eating or drinking something right then. So people are complying very well in the airports. Outside the airports, it looks more like I was in Grand Junction, went through Grand Junction last week. Fairbanks is kind of the same way. Quite a few people with masks, but the majority not wearing masks in stores or on the street or anything.
Well, they aren't required in Grand Junction, so it's really a choice. I appreciate people who are choosing to wear a mask when they're in situations where they feel uncomfortable, or just because they may not be vaccinated, or maybe because they're concerned about the variants and others around them. Again, you have to be respectful and honor people who choose to wear a mask, and kind of vice versa when you're in areas where you're not required. So it's an interesting saga that continues. So I do believe that one of our applicants I believe it's Kevin Mickelson applying for planning and zoning. And Kevin, you are on. And do we need anybody else here from?
Ellen was going to join, and she may be on here in a few minutes, but.
Well, let's proceed slowly since we do have Kevin here. Hi, Kevin. Welcome. So
Hello.
A quick process. We do a 10, 15, 20-minute interview with you. Right now, it's just Steve Child, who is calling in from Alaska. He zoomed into the meeting. Greg is zooming in from home. I am in the office. So we are going to start with asking you if you would like to give us a little background or why you're interested in applying for the Planning and Zoning Commission, which is one of our most important commissions that we appoint people to. So please go ahead and introduce yourself and give us a little background.
Well, my name's Kevin Michelson, and I've been living in the Valley since 1996, and I started working as an architect around 2000, and I've been in the field for over 20 years, and I'm looking for a way to contribute in the Valley is what I'm interested in doing, and I feel like this may be a good fit, and so here I am. That's about it.
Well, welcome, and we thank you for taking the time to apply. And I'm going to look at the two other members of my board who are on this Zoom meeting, this interview. So, Greg or Steve, do you have any questions or comments for Kevin? Steve, please.
So, Kevin, good to see you again, and thanks for applying for this board. You have some competition for the one open seat right now, just so you know. I'm curious, in your career as an architect, how often do you run into issues on projects that have to go before the P&Z board? What's been your experience if you have had any projects that you have to kind of go to the P&Z board and present a case for it?
Well, I've been involved in a number of land use applications, and I think I've been in front of a hearing officer once, and that's about it. I have not had to go in front of the P&Z board and plead a case of any nature. Most of the time, it's a single-family residence on, an established lot or something of that nature. So there haven't been any major issues in anything I've dealt with. But I've certainly, read in the paper issues that come up and how decisions are made, but no personal experience.
Great, thank you.
Okay, and the reason I asked that would be, kind of trying to assess what's the possibility that you would have a conflict of interest on a case that you would have to recuse yourself from. It sounds like it's a low a low chance, not an impossible chance that you wouldn't have a situation like that. But what's your feeling about the whole issue of the house size, the growth management quota system, the TDR program that the community development is going to be taking a hard look at starting this fall and going on into next year?
Well, that's a difficult question, and everybody has different opinions there. I think that our current system has worked relatively well in the past. There's certainly a lot of large homes in the valley, and I can understand where people are coming from to try to reduce the size of that. And I'm not necessarily opposed, and I'm not in favor. I would just have to listen to each side and try to understand what I think is best. I'm not necessarily a fan of the monster homes in the valley in general. I don't think it's necessary. But at the same time, I've worked on them personally in the past, and so I've made a living in many regards that way. But it wouldn't be my first choice of the projects to be working on. I'd rather work on homes that are less than 5750, and that's what I've done in the recent past, and that's where I would prefer to be. But that may not constitute the majority of the work in the valley.
All right, anything else, Steve? Okay, Greg?
Yeah, great, Kevin. Thanks a lot. I'm been looking at your resume. Of course, I'm drawn immediately to the whitewater team as a former kayaker, but nowhere near a competitive level kayaker. And all the other stuff you do, it's like, yeah, clearly you're a local, you're a resident, you fit in, and that's great. It's great to know you've got some history here, super helpful. And then I see you've got a really strong math, science, physics background. One of the issues we're all wrestling with is, how do we adopt a cogent, coherent climate action plan to, for lack of a better term, maybe it's a carbon mitigation plan. How do you see homes, buildings, construction pivoting in the future if necessary? What's your take on that? Is it necessary, and do you think we can do this?
Yes, I do think it's necessary, and yes, I do think we can do this. The challenge in the past has been that the building codes have been inadequate, basically, and so you get homes that are not so energy efficient as a result. And the recent code changes have been enacted to, see more energy efficient homes, and I've experienced it firsthand, having to plan and tell people that they need to put more into their buildings in order to be energy efficient. So I think we're on the right track, and making the codes more stringent is the path, and I feel like we've followed that in the recent past. So I would just encourage the same sort of effort in the future.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks. If I could also just, as somebody who's practical, you're in the middle of this. I don't know what your living situation is like in the valley, but some of the coding changes we've proposed and have discussed have made people nervous, only because a lot of people depend on the appreciation or the potential increase of the size of their home after they sell, as their retirement plan. The decisions we're making are really affecting longtime locals, people in the community who are landowners, property owners who've been, paying the mortgages all those years. And I've certainly heard, and I'm sure P&Z have as well. And I'm just wondering what your perspective is on that. What's practical and possible, and I thoughts on what's fair, what's practical, what's possible. Where's the low-hanging fruit? As we're trying to navigate this and do something, that's effective regarding carbon mitigation.
Well, I guess that's a tough question. You know, I feel like the values of all our properties are overvalued in the valley in general. So, you know, when someone comes in and buys something that's already overvalued, you know, they don't necessarily want to see a decrease in value. The longtime locals that have been here, own something for ages, you know, should have seen the value of their properties increase, and I wouldn't be opposed to some code change that drops the value of my home as an example, because I feel like it's already, you know, relatively high. No, I don't have a good answer for you, I guess I would say.
Yeah, I didn't expect you to, but I know that that's the sort of thing you'll probably be spending some time deliberating, you know, if you get into this gig. But it's a tough one, and it seems as if you have you certainly have a resume that would show that you're able to deal. You can do the math. That's good to know, and you've got the architectural experience. So it's the relief to have you come in and see that. And I'm trying to look at when you first hit town. You've been in town for 20 years or so, or working in the valley that long.
Well, I first came here in 1989 when I graduated high school, and I worked as a lifeguard at the James E. Moore Pool before it was the Ark. And yeah, so I've spent a lot of time here. I actually skied here as a kid with my family. You know, we came, and I certainly call this home, and I appreciate it. And you know, going back to this question about the valuation and the land use changes, you know, I would want to see as many sides of the story as I can. You know, I'd like to hear somebody present their case that, you know, this land use code change is really going to affect my valuation in a negative way, and I'm not opposed, therefore. And I'd want to hear the other side too. You know, I don't want to see big homes or whatever the case may be. And so you just have to weigh them both out and try to see what the community wants for a long-term solution. You know, that's kind of the tricky landscape that you have to navigate, is to figure out what the community really prefers.
So, Kevin, I want to thank you. Thank you for applying, and I too found your resume very interesting. So, if you worked at the James E. Moore, you must have worked with Kelly way back.
For sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Both of my kids learned to swim. Greg, you may have learned to swim there also. I don't know. And then you did some time over at Fort Lewis College, where both of my kids went to college. And then you teach at the ski company, where both of my kids teach for the ski company. So you got kind of a track record here with the Clapper family. I don't know, but I appreciate your various experience with different projects and different architects throughout the valley, which I think has probably given you a good sense of what's happening valley-wide as far as building. So, you know, I just so you know, I will have the other two commissioners. Charlotte will give them a link to this interview, so both Kelly and Francie will be able to watch it when we take into consideration. And Charlotte, we have 3 people applying for this seat. We don't have any more applicants to interview.
No, we do. We have one that's being scheduled right now.
We have one more, so yeah. And then is the application period closed now, or? Okay, so it'll take us some time to vet this out, so don't be surprised if you don't hear back tomorrow. We'll get back to you as soon as we can, and again, our thanks. Do you have any questions for us? Because we're here to answer questions back for you.
Well, I mean, quite frankly, I'm not 100% sure, you know, what's involved in the position, and I guess I'm curious what you guys are looking for when you're filling this position. I've heard that there are a number of lawyers on the advisory board and a builder, and you know, what would you like to see the board look like?
Well, I think one of the concerns of one of the commissioners was a little more diversity. I myself am looking for somebody who's willing to read a lot of information, digest a lot of information. I sat on planning and zoning for some years before I became a commissioner. It's a lot of work, and it's some applications can be very lengthy, and you have to be very diligent, and you have to be, it's an investment of your time and energy. And also you have to be willing to ask the tough questions and seek information, and that's what's really key, especially when we're going to be going through this process of kind of reevaluating growth management as a whole. That's going to be upcoming over this next year, end of this year, the end of this year, and then on into next year. So we've got a lot going on with planning and zoning in the future. So, and that's a time commitment, and I think that's of concern. And if you're ready to take it on, that's something you might want to let the board know. Okay.
I'm in.
Okay. Thank you. So we will get back to you
All
as
right,
soon
well,
as
thank
we've
you.
had time to digest it. And again, I'm sure we all are giving you our thanks for taking the time to apply and for being part of our
Thank you.
community. All right. Stay safe out there, Kevin. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
By any chance is,
See, Jeff's on, but Bob is not here yet.
so we still are
He
lacking.
is on as an attendee. He'd
there's
have to be
Bob.
moved over to a panelist.
Yeah, thank you, Steve. All right. So, Bob, welcome. Thanks for attending our meeting. We have you on, so you can probably click on your speaker and your camera so we can have you join us. There you are. So welcome. We've all had a chance to look at your information, your application, and I want to welcome you, and I want to thank you for taking the time to apply for this position. And our general procedure is we interview for anywhere from 10 to 20 minutes or so, and I don't think we have any other applicants for this board, and we have openings? Two alternate openings. This board has grown significantly over the years because of funding issues and broadband and a change in the use of our fund, which has kind of bringing us into the new age of technology, slowly but surely. So is there anything you would like to start off by telling the board about yourself that was not included in your application? And you need to unmute. Which is, oh, there you go.
You hear me now?
Yes, perfect. Thank you.
You hear me now?
Yes.
Thank you. I was on the phone. When I jumped on initially, I guess I got on a little early, so I caught the end of the interview with the previous person, and I wasn't sure whether it was my computer or my phone or whatever, but here I am. I'm a relatively new resident of Aspen, Pitkin County. We moved here full-time in 2018, and recently purchased a home finally in the Brush Creek Village area. And I actually came upon you in a bit of a sort of a coincidental way. I was looking through some Pitkin County websites, in particular for trying to find some information, building plans information, and somehow, don't remember exactly how, stumbled onto a telecommunications advisory board. And, I've been in the sort of the business telecommunications field for pretty much my whole career, going on almost 30 years now. And, I was curious. And so I simply, emailed and ended up speaking with, I believe, Jeff Kruger, and talking a little bit about my background, and he encouraged me to apply. And, I'm interested in I don't know many details, of course, about what the committee does. I was on some committees in my previous life in Miami, Florida. I lived in the city of South Miami, and I was on a finance committee, and I did a couple of things with the local government. So I have a little bit of familiarity with that, but I figure, maybe this is a good way to sort of contribute back a little bit to the community and become more involved, and so here I am.
Great. Well, again, thank you. And how often does the
I'm not hearing you.
how often do they meet? TB.
Once a quarter, I believe.
I'm asking Charlotte. Sorry.
You hear me fine.
Yeah.
Let me see.
Just to give you a little more information.
I can't hear you.
But Jeff.
Hey, Patty.
Yeah, Jeff's here.
Yeah, Patty,
on my phone.
The telecommunications
out
advisory
here,
board
calling on
meets
the phone,
every
sorry.
quarter.
They eat once a quarter, or more necessary,
Yes,
but you could call special meetings if need be, if there's a project that comes up that you need some communication with the board, right?
Correct.
So Bob, you can hear us, is that right? Can you hear us?
Hello now, you hear me now?
We can hear you.
And let me go here. Can I hear you?
We can hear you, you can't hear us?
Now I hear you.
Okay.
Now I hear you, thank
Now
you.
you're good.
Wrong speakers.
Okay, so this board, this commission meets once a quarter, but special meetings can be called if need be and may or may not happen. But there's been a lot going on as far as improving our systems, building new communication sites, refurbishing old communication sites that need to be refurbished. So Jeff's been keeping everybody pretty busy in his department, but it's a great group, and I think you would enjoy them. I think they would enjoy you. So I'm going to ask my other two commissioners who are on. We have two commissioners who are absent from today's meeting, but they will be linked into looking at your interview before we make a decision. And we have no other applicants, and we do have the two openings. So again, thank you for taking the time to apply. And I'm going to look at Greg and Steve to see if either one of you have questions. Greg, please go ahead.
Sure, Bob, welcome to the community and welcome to the neighborhood. I'm in Brush Creek as well, so I'll have to figure out, we can triangulate, figure out where you are relative to me.
Yeah.
As Jeff will testify, I often complain about the weak signal from some of the public radio stations and others up here, certainly after snowstorms, and it's one of those things I keep hoping we can fix someday. But I'd be interested in hearing a little bit more about your history in communications and audio, and it looks pretty fascinating. If you could tell us a bit more.
Well, I'll give you a quick history. I grew up in Pennsylvania, went to school in Boston, ended up in Venezuela for a couple of years after college, and came back and got a job with a guy who was in the communications technology business outside of Washington, D.C. He wanted to open up a market in Latin America. He sent me down to Miami, and for about the next 10 or 12 years, I did a lot of work in Latin America, traveling around, mostly as a sort of a salesperson, sales engineering in the private communications, business communications field. So it's anything related to what we call PBX systems and networks for businesses. I worked for a few years for him, ended up starting my own company in 1993, which I still have today. And we really are in the, we're still in the same business, and we've gone through a few different, iterations, but and transformations, but primarily we provide technical services, engineering, project management, consulting, expert guidance to businesses of a certain size or organizations of a certain size to help them manage their networks. And so I know a bit about the networking side of what I think you guys do, or what I think the county is trying to achieve in terms of internet and providing, broadband and these types of things. The television side and the radio side, not as knowledgeable with, because that's just sort of outside of my professional, knowledge, my professional expertise. That's basically what I do. I manage, and I've had the business for a number of years. Obviously, we've been of different sizes, and now I have a team of about 10 people who are, experts in helping businesses run their networks, and I manage that team, and I manage some of our clients.
Great. So I'm wondering how do you see that background of helping guide our telecommunications board?
Well, I don't know exactly what you need, but I certainly have some experience with hardware and software, and building hardware and software, and how that works, and what are the things that you have to look out for, and sort of that whole process of managing a system and a solution with vendors and multiple vendors. And so, I might be of assistance, in terms of the business side of that, of those, arrangements that the county has in determining, what to do and how to do it, and what are the things to look out for, and these types of things.
Great. Yeah, it seems like you know the language, the vernacular, so it makes sense. Thank you. So thank you.
Thanks. Steve, do you have questions? Steve, please, go ahead.
Yeah, thanks, Bob, for applying. One of the things we really look for in people who are, serve on this board is sort of a geographic distribution of the people on the board to different parts of the county.
Yeah.
So they're getting their radio and television signals from different sources and have different levels of service in different parts of the county. So I'm just curious, when you listen to FM radio, what stations do you listen to? If you watch any of the local television stations that come off of the mountaintops, what do you watch for?
The radio, I do listen to the radio, and I listen to the public radio. And in particular, I listen to, KDNK? That's 88 in Carbondale and 99.9 in Snowmass. And I'm wondering, is that the antenna that's on top of Brush Creek?
No.
The radio antenna, the TV antenna that's at the very top of Brush Creek Village, when you go all the way to the top of the road.
So that's,
yeah, I've seen that. Jeff might know.
No, it's not. Our towers for both of those stations either operate off of Upper Red Mountain in Aspen or Williams Peak in Old Snowmass.
And I was always wondering, because I get really, pretty poor signal, and I have to go down and sort of, if I'm going down valley, I get better signal connecting to Carbondale than I do to Pitkin County. So I was wondering, I was like, why am I not getting a better signal off of that? Because I thought that's what it was. I thought that was the tower. Is that a private station up there? Is that somebody what is that one up there?
I'm not actually familiar with the Brush Creek Tower you're referring to.
Off of Wildcat.
Yeah, it's up in Wildcat. It's at the very top of this Aspen Ridge Road. You go all the way up Juniper Hill, and you come to a private road, and you keep going up and up and up.
Okay.
It's up there.
That's that is a private tower. Okay, I know which one you're talking about now. The one off Wildcat.
So,
that is a private tower.
Steve, to answer your question, those are the stations I listen to. The public TV, only in passing. Actually, my wife, the first year that we were here, did an interview. She's into holistic health and nutrition and these types of things, and she ended up getting interviewed. So I watched her on TV. That was my biggest exposure to the local public television station. That's the one that's run over the Red Brick, correct?
Yeah.
Correct.
And I don't think you had much choice in not watching that. Yeah.
So you are live right now, Bob, just for your information, on that same station.
Awesome.
And people will be watching this for weeks or months. They can refer to same meeting right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
I'm sure
hopefully,
they'll be fast forwarding to get to my part.
yeah, and hopefully your wife is watching you this time on local TV.
Oh, I had no idea that this was going to be. I thought this was a private interview. I did not realize that this was part of the public, public meetings.
So don't be surprised when people recognize you at the grocery store.
Uh-oh.
So is there any other questions from the board? So the process now, Bob, is to have the other two commissioners watch this interview, and then we'll bring it back for discussion. And since the application period is closed and you're the applicant, we should be getting back to you sooner than later. And again, I really want to thank you. I appreciate Steve's got. Steve, go ahead, and then I'll wrap up. Go ahead, Steve.
I just remembered that there are two different dates for how long these two terms, the two seats that are available have different ending dates. I don't have my packet right in front of me, but one was like maybe a year-long term, and another one was maybe a 3-year-long term.
I know, let's ask Charlotte.
So
Let's ask Charlotte.
When we do renewals, I change those dates so that not everything expires at the same time. So that's why there's a difference.
So we could choose
Okay.
we can choose either one.
Yeah, and that might be a question to ask Bob right now. I mean, you don't have any competition for this job. I feel reasonably sure we're going to appoint you to this because you have some good qualifications, obviously. Would you like to have a longer term or a shorter term, given the knowledge that, I mean, people can resign from these committees anytime they want anyhow, but it would be your choice.
Yeah, I mean, I have a son who is going into 7th grade, so I'm going to be around for the next several years, and so yeah, whatever term that is required, I'm happy to fulfill.
And we can make that the full term.
Yeah, and we can decide that. It's like, what kind of sentencing do you want here? You want the life term, a life sentence, or do you want to have parole in 5 years? So yeah, we'll figure that out when we have our broader discussion. But again, Bob, it was a pleasure to meet you. Welcome to our community. And be careful, Greg is a next door neighbor, so we want to warn you about that. And
we'll see you down at the mail stop.
Yeah. And you can talk about the fact he doesn't get that radio station that he wants. So we appreciate it. We'll get back to you, and again, our thanks.
Thank you very much.
Okay,
Thanks,
you.
Bob. Thank you.
All right, back to the BOCC. We should be done.
I think we have one more interview.
No.
I already did Kevin Nicholson.
Oh, that's right. I'm sorry. I have that confused.
Good thing I'm keeping track of you over there. I think we've done actually really well. It's amazing what you can accomplish when there's only 3 of you at the table. For a while there, I thought it was just going to be me, so we may be here for hours. But Steve, thank you for joining us from the faraway territory of Alaska. And yeah, it's a beautiful mountain peak. The weather doesn't look like it's changed at all the whole time you've been online with us. So, and Greg, thank you. And I guess that's it for us today. Unless anybody else has anything they'd like us to challenge, we're good. We're good. So thank you, and gentlemen, I will see you again next week.
Thanks.
Okay, thanks,
See you
guys.
soon.
Thank you, Grassroots. Thank you, McKella, and thank you, staff. We appreciate it.
Goodbye.
So I have a question for you. Are we the fire siren, which I thought to keep because it's historic, and now it goes off a lot because it's my understanding they're now doing all the medical calls so the fire department can respond. And we know why that's happening. So my question is,